AITA for refusing to get my best friend a wedding gift. I, 23F, have known my best friend, 24F, let's call her Maria, since we were babies. We have been inseparable our whole lives and she is like a sister to me. We both grew up in a poor area and our families struggle a lot with money. We are both in our final year of college now and I don't have a lot of money to spare, I have lots of student debt and I work 2 jobs to have enough money for food and rent, etc. We both go to a very prestigious college so we have worked very hard to get to where we are. Around 6 months ago, Maria met a guy at the shop she works at, called Mike, 33M. They started dating pretty quickly and Mike is very rich, he is the definition of living off daddy's money. At first I was a little bit skeptical as obviously Mike is quite a bit older than her but she seemed happy. After a month of them dating, Maria had changed a lot. She was missing lectures and tests to go on last-minute holidays to Dubai, Paris, New York, etc., and always coming back with designer accessories. After 3 months she moved in with Mike, which upset me as I had to sell our shared apartment because I could not afford rent by myself. I thought they were moving very quickly but I didn't want to seem jealous or petty by bringing it up. Around a month ago, Mike proposed to Maria, and she accepted. I was happy for her, but after she told me her plans, I was shocked. Maria's dream since we were kids was to work for NASA and she has worked so hard for this, she has taken internships there and was planning to apply there for next year. But her new plan is to get married, graduate college and move to LA with Mike and become a housewife. The wedding is planned for this December and it is the most lavish, expensive wedding that you could think of. Her bridal shower is next week and she has asked me to be her maid of honor. While I don't approve of her plans, of course I said yes. She's inviting me and some of her new, rich friends she's met through Mike to the shower, and she made a group chat with all of us in. She sent us a list of the presents she wanted which took me by surprise because this list included designer items and luxury furniture that I could definitely not afford, the cheapest was $550. I had planned to get her something sentimental and personal, not designer brands. While all the bridesmaids were discussing in the chat what they would buy for her I messaged her privately and apologized that I wouldn't be able to buy anything. She completely went off at me, saying that my financial issues shouldn't get in the way of her wedding. I got pretty upset as this isn't the Maria I've known my whole life and she is well aware of my issues with money. I told her that if this is the way she's acting, I wouldn't buy her anything at all. She's removed me from the wedding party chat and I've had several angry messages from Mike and the bridesmaids telling me what a horrible friend I am. I'm feeling very conflicted about whether I'm in the wrong. AITA. Comments. Commenter 1. But your friendship is over basically. Her values have changed. She isn't the same person anymore. And honestly there is some massive red flags in her relationship. You cannot help her in this regard. It's time to let her live her life the way she wants. Your lives aren't compatible anymore. She is placing a gift over your shared history. And what your friendship means. To be honest, being a bridesmaid is very expensive. And with her taste it will be even more so. It sounds like she is putting having an expensive lifestyle over her own dreams. I think you need to do what's best for you. Do not go into debt for this wedding. I would decline being a last of the wedding party due to financial reasons. If she is a true friend she would understand. Commenter 2. Yup, would not be surprised if Maria wants a week-long luxury bachelorette in Turks and Caicos or something just as extravagant. Commenter 3. Yep. Honestly there is no OP could financially handle her expectations. You have to love the guilt card though. Her old friend is only too happy to spend other people's money but if it means so much to her she would cover the costs. Commenter 4. NTA. She dumped you with a shared apartment that you can't afford, and then is mad you can't afford things. And your financial situation shouldn't ruin her wedding, like what? Does she think you're out here being poor just to spite her? Does she think you should just fall behind on your bills and skip a few meals so she can have a fancy handbag? This girl doesn't care about you, and she's made it very obvious. Update. Thank you everyone for your comments. It has been 3 weeks since I dropped out of the wedding party and I am still getting calls from Mike and the bridesmaids. I spoke to a couple friends and asked for advice and like a lot of comments said they advised just to be there for Maria and try to reach out if possible. I messaged her last week asking to meet for a coffee and after being left on read for a few days she agreed. I spoke to her explaining my concerns about the marriage and why I decided to drop out of the wedding party. She stayed silent through all of it and when I finished she broke down in tears, so badly she couldn't speak. I took her back to my place and once she calmed down she explained what was really happening. Like I said, Mike lives off his parents' fortune. Turns out his parents had a deal, he could only continue using their money as long as he got married by 35. As he was quickly reaching this deadline he found a young, pretty girlfriend and rushed into marriage so he could continue his luxury lifestyle. Maria found this out at family dinner back in July. Maria tried to confront him but he threatened her with taking all her money, leaving her jobless and without a place to live. Mike's parents also have a prenuptial in the works and Maria confessed she has been stalling it as long as she can. She also explained to me that the bridesmaids' new friends had been picked by Mike as daughters of his father's friends and they all made fun of Maria for being previously poor. Because of this she felt like she had to change, hence the dramatic personality change and expensive registry. It all went down after I dropped out of the party. Maria caught Mike cheating with an even younger girl. She found messages of them sexting and evidence of her coming to their house. She confronted him and he denied everything, deleted all evidence and tried gaslight her into thinking she made it up. She was sleeping in the spare room until we met up, and right now she's staying on the couch in my apartment. Last night she officially called off the engagement and both me and her have been receiving hateful messages all night. We're making a plan at the moment to help her cut ties with Mike, get back on track with college and find a job again. I'm still mad at her for what she did to me and it will take a very long time for our friendship to get back on track, but I am trying my best to support her. Again, thank you everyone for your comments and feedback, I really appreciate it. While she still has a long way to go, I am happy to see that the person I knew and loved is slowly coming back. Comments. Commenter 1. You are a true friend to Maria. Good to see she knows that now. Commenter 2. I suggest you don't trust her. She can say whatever she wants about her ex, but she chose to give everything up for money. It already really showed the person who she is. Stories number 2. AITA for deciding to bury my husband with his late wife and young daughter. My husband died very recently after nearly 17 years of marriage. He hadn't left any written instructions for what he wanted after death, but there was one quiet conversation years ago, just once, where he mentioned wanting to be buried with his first wife and their baby daughter who passed away when she was very young. At the time, I remembered it like an offhand memory. But after he died, it became one of the only things I had to go on. His son, 31, from that first marriage asked if we could honor that and bury him with his mother and sister. My children, 22 and 24, were devastated. Their biological father was not a good man, and my husband stepped in and became their real dad. He raised them, loved them, and treated them as his own. They wanted him buried somewhere we could all visit. Somewhere we could still feel like a family, together even in the end, but I kept thinking back to that moment. That single sentence, that subtle wish. And I made the call. I buried him with his first wife and daughter. My kids are crushed. They say it feels like he chose them, the family before us, over the life we built together. My sister is angry too. She said I took his son's side, the son who always struggled with our presence in his father's life. And she's right about something else too. Now that my husband is gone, the already strained bond with his son is likely gone too. There's no bridge left between us. I've been trying to hold it together, but inside I'm unraveling. I feel like I did the right thing, and yet I'm not sure anymore. My children don't understand. My sister thinks I betrayed them. And now, even in his death, I feel caught between two worlds that were never fully reconciled. Did I do the right thing? Could I have honored his memory and still comforted the family I have now? Or did I misread his one wish because I was scared of making the wrong one? Update, AITA for deciding to bury my husband with his late wife and young daughter. It's been a few weeks since the burial, and the silence in the house is louder than ever. My kids are civil, but distant. They don't bring it up directly anymore, but it lingers in everything. They don't sit at the dinner table as long. They leave the room a little faster. It's like grief has frozen us in different stages, and mine doesn't match theirs. My daughter broke down the other night. She told me she visited the cemetery we had picked out together years ago, where we once planned to be buried as a family. She stood there, staring at an empty plot. That was supposed to be ours, she said. Now it's just a hole in the ground. And my son? He barely says anything at all. He won't admit it, but I see the betrayal in his eyes. I think he feels like he lost his dad and the vision of their future, all in the same day. I tried to explain again. I told them their father loved them, fiercely. I reminded them of the late-night talks, the graduations, the way he stayed up with them when they were sick. I told them he would have done anything for them, and he did. But that quiet wish, that one wish to be beside the daughter he buried and the woman he once loved, how could I ignore that? I think the hardest part isn't just that they're upset. It's that I don't know if they'll ever forgive me. And I'm starting to wonder, should I have let them decide instead? Should I have involved them more, even if it meant fighting with his son? Should I have chosen the family in front of me, rather than honoring the one he lost? I haven't visited his grave yet. I don't know if I'm ready. Update 2, AITA for deciding to bury my husband with his late wife and young daughter. Yesterday, I finally visited his grave. I took flowers, white lilies. They were his favorite. I stood there longer than I expected, just looking at the headstone, now etched with his name, right beside hers. I tried to imagine what it must have felt like for him when he lost them. I never asked. I didn't want to intrude. Now I wish I had. As I stood there, I felt two things at once, peace and guilt. Peace, because deep down, I do believe this is what he would have wanted. He never spoke of her often, but when he did, it was with reverence. He never compared us. He never made me feel second. But I always knew she was part of him. The loss shaped him. Their daughter, the baby he never got to raise, stayed frozen in time in his heart. That pain, it never left him. Guilt, because I feel like I didn't do enough to help my kids feel heard. My daughter used to call him Dad without hesitation. Now she barely looks at his photos. My son used to talk about having his own kids one day, and how he hoped they'd have Grandpa's smile. Now he won't even say his name. We had dinner as a family last night. It was quiet, again. Until my daughter finally spoke. She asked, "Did you ever think about what we would need?" I didn't have an answer. Not one that would make it okay. I said, I thought about what he would need. And maybe I was wrong to think that had to come first. She didn't say anything back. But she stayed at the table. She didn't leave the room this time. I don't think this is over. I don't think forgiveness is coming quickly, if at all. But maybe this is the first step. Maybe, in time, we'll find a way to reconcile what we lost, and what we still have. Update 3, AITA for deciding to bury my husband with his late wife and young daughter. It's been a few weeks now. Grief has settled into the walls of our home like dust, quiet, heavy, and impossible to ignore. The anger has faded just a little, replaced by something softer. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe understanding. My son came over last weekend. We sat outside, just the two of us. He finally said what he'd been holding in. "You chose his old family over us." I didn't defend myself this time. I just listened. I let him get it all out, how he felt like we were never enough for my husband, how he always felt like a guest in his eyes, no matter how kind he was. I told him the truth. It was never about choosing one family over another. It was about honoring someone who carried deep pain quietly and loving you both the best he knew how. He nodded. I guess I just wanted him with us. Even in death. I said, so did I. That silence between us. It didn't feel so angry anymore. Later that night, my daughter pulled out an old photo album. The one with the beach trip, the only time all 5 of us went away together. My husband had sand in his hair and a terrible sunburn, but his arm was wrapped around both kids, laughing. She asked, would it be okay if we visited his grave? I told her yes, of course. Any time. So maybe we're not healing completely. But we're no longer breaking apart. We're learning to carry both truths, that he loved us, and that part of him always belonged to someone else. And now, in death, he's with her. But in life, he was ours too. Final update, AITA for deciding to bury my husband with his late wife and young daughter. It's been nearly 6 months since the funeral. Time didn't fix everything, but it softened the sharp edges. A few weeks ago, I gathered the courage to reach out to my stepson. We hadn't spoken since the funeral. I told him I wasn't trying to reopen wounds, I just wanted to know how he was doing. To my surprise, he responded with a photo of the grave. Fresh flowers. A small stuffed bear for his little sister. He wrote, "Thank you for doing the right thing. He's home now." That message, it meant more than he'll ever know. As for my kids, they asked if we could create a memorial space here, at home. A little garden bench, a plaque, photos. A place that felt like ours. Somewhere they could go when they missed him, without the weight of complicated history. We built it together. My daughter planted sunflowers. My son added a wind chime. We cried. We laughed. We told stories. It wasn't the family grave they imagined. But it became something real. Something healing. One morning, I sat alone by the bench, coffee in hand. A breeze rustled the wind chime, and for a moment, I felt it, him. Not caught between two families, not torn by loss. Just, present. Loved. Remembered. Grief doesn't give us clear answers. Sometimes, love doesn't either. But I know now, I made the choice that honored his truth, even when it hurt. And slowly, we are learning to carry that truth, and each other, forward. Stories number 3. I, 25M, was with my ex Emily, 24F, for 3 years. We broke up 2 months ago. Or I broke up with her 2 months to give full transparency. Even before we got together, Emily knew I was estranged from my brother Travis, 28M. Growing up with Travis was rough. I don't know for sure why he hated me, but it was always that way. Our parents were constantly on him as a kid for not treating me with civility at a minimum. They did so much to try and make his treatment of me better until eventually they kept us apart as much as they could. I know it broke their hearts, but Travis went out of his way to say cruel things about me. From mocking how I spoke with my stutter, to making fun of the fact I was bullied at school and saying I deserved it for being fucking dumb, to telling me everyone's life was better when I wasn't born and how he'd go back and stop our parents from having me if he could. Travis hated me more when he was punished. He blamed me for getting him in trouble with mom and dad. He wouldn't work on those issues with therapists either. Mom and dad must have tried dozens and some were family therapists. Travis was so stubborn. He went as far as getting his friend's sister to ask me to prom and say she liked me and stuff and then mock me during prom. He knew I had a crush on her and she went along with it because he bought her alcohol or something. Travis wasn't as welcome at home after that. Mom and dad were pissed he'd go so far when he was supposedly an adult now. Even if he was a younger adult. Our lives have been totally separate since, and Emily knew this. We talked about it and what I went through. Then 6 months ago, after she started getting closer to my family, she started talking more about Travis, and then she told me she had gotten his contact info off a family member and was trying to befriend him. She told me he was family and we should all work things out. I told her I did not like her doing that and it felt like she was stabbing me in the back. She told me she should be allowed to form her own relationships. But she didn't stop there. She was talking with Travis some. Though he wasn't very responsive to her. So she pushed me hard to reconcile with him, and after she refused to stop and she made it clear she wanted to be his friend and have him in our lives, I told her I was not staying in this relationship. She didn't think I'd actually break up with her. But I did. I took my stuff from her place and gave her stuff at my place back, and I cut ties with her. And I thanked my lucky stars we hadn't moved in together yet. She tried to contact me but I ignored her and I avoided places where I might run into her. She tried to reach out via friends and I told them they could leave it alone because there was no coming back. She got one mutual friend to tell me over and over how she didn't want to end our relationship and she wanted us to talk it out and figure out a way to move forward together. I told that friend that she didn't need to be her messenger and I was not interested in hearing what she has to say. Then she showed up on a night out and tried talking to me and I told her to leave me alone. She told me we needed to speak and to please hear her out and that she was trying super hard. That one mutual friend told me I was being an ass and I should give Emily a chance to work on this. That I was already being a stubborn ass by wanting her to not talk to people because I didn't like them. And she said it didn't matter what Travis did to me. That Emily was allowed to want to talk to him. She said I sabotaged me and Emily by throwing up so many roadblocks. And not letting Emily talk now was trying to punish her when she wasn't wrong. Stories number 4. Me, 30F, with my family and friends, I'm getting surgery to correct my disability, and I'm not sure how to tell people or deal with the change. I come from an extremely low-income, uneducated, and prejudiced family, basically Midwestern rednecks. I was born with a disability that affects the way I walk. Growing up, my parents didn't believe that my inability to walk normally was a disability. They, mainly my father, my mom just kind of goes along with him, thought I was doing it for attention or to spite them or something, even as a toddler. Because of this, I was punished for walking the only way I am physically able to. Which means I was basically punished constantly for about 7 to 8 years until a teacher had a sit down with my parents and strongly suggested they take me to see someone. At this point, the disability was identified, and the doctor suggested surgery, which my family couldn't afford. So I spent a number of years in leg braces, physical therapy, etc., which didn't work, as it's a congenital disability. My parents and family, despite being told what was going on, still blamed me for my condition. They believed that I faked this disability long enough as a baby and toddler that I eventually made my body this way. They've always been resentful because of that, and used to constantly remind me how much money they had to shell out for my problem. Throughout my childhood, I was constantly teased about my condition by other kids. I was in leg braces when Forrest Gump came out, yelled at and punished by my parents, and criticized by extended family and other adults, even strangers at the grocery store. People even commented on it in my receiving line at my wedding 2 years ago. I spent years learning a fake normal walk for when I can't wear shoes, developing a thick skin, and learning to laugh at myself. I've been reminded of this condition by everyone I meet and everyone I know on a constant basis for my entire life. At this point, it's such a strong part of who I am as a person and my resiliency, I don't even think of it as a disability, really. Just a part of who I am. The problem, at this point, I'm 30 years old. Over the past decade or so, I've had a lot of problems with my feet because of the unusual weight distribution pattern I place on them attempting to walk. Over the last year, though, I started noticing signs of nerve damage, numbness, tingling, and shooting pain which renders me barely able to walk at times, and my doctor strongly stressed revisiting an orthopedic surgeon. At my consult, the surgeon was shocked. He kept asking me questions with this incredulous look on his face, taking pictures with his phone, and commenting on how surprised me was that I could walk as well as I can at this point. He said it's one of the most severe cases he's ever seen of this particular condition, as most are fixed in childhood via surgery. The imaging of my lower extremities showed tissue damage and nerve impingement, making surgery a necessity at this point. So I scheduled a surgery a couple months from now. I've had a lot of weird feelings about this since scheduling the surgery. The first pertains to how when I'm going to tell my family. For years I have completely avoided any talk of my condition, and generally ignore all of the comments made by everyone, still walking like a freak, huh, and the like. I know my parents still believe I did this to myself. Even though I've developed a pretty thick skin to others, I still get emotional thinking about the abuse, shame, and humiliation I suffered at the hands of my parents and family all throughout my childhood because of this. I'm afraid that it's all going to boil back to the surface when I tell them, and start a fight. We already have a tepid relationship, and I don't want to make it worse. The other weird feeling I have pertains to the feeling that I'm fixing something. I know that at this point, it's either surgery or losing the use of my lower legs over the next few years. However, it feels like I'm losing a piece of me. I've spent 30 years telling myself that there's nothing wrong with me. Finally, fixing my condition feels like I'm agreeing with everyone, that there was something inherently wrong with me all along. The surgeon said I would have to relearn how to walk, run, jump, etc. I'm excited to know what it feels like to walk on two good legs, but at the same time, I start to cry even thinking about changing this part of me forever. It's part of me. It's the way I was made. Fixing it makes it seem like I agree that I was made wrong. I don't know how to make peace with that feeling. Dr. Born with disability, family and others spend 30 years making me feel horrible about it. Now getting surgery to correct, how do I break the news results to my family, and how do I deal with the feeling that I'm taking away a piece of my identity selling out? Edit, holy cannoli, I came home from school to see this, and oh my goodness. Thank you all so much for your kind words and support. I am truly reading all the comments, even if I can't respond to all of them. I want to thank you all so much. Your comments made me laugh, cry, and seriously think about a lot of things in my life related to my family. I wanted to address some points that I've seen come up a couple times, for better clarification. My family no longer thinks I'm faking. At this point, they believe that I faked my condition as a baby and toddler, and that led to the condition I live with today. Kind of like a, if you keep making that face it's going to stick that way, mentality. There is absolutely no getting through to them about this, so I just ignore it. 2. I grew up in a poor, uneducated, generally abusive household with an abusive alcoholic father and an enabler for a mother. I've been in therapy off and on for almost a decade now, but really started to make progress a few years ago when I started seeing my current psychiatrist, so no worries on my current mental health. Although I still have a lot of problems related to my family history as well as other things that happened, I am in the best possible place now, and actively dealing with it. 3. The reason I still keep my family in my life is because of a few reasons. 1, of course, is the unconditional love I feel for them. As horrible as some of them have been, deep down I will always want to help them and hope that things will get better. I realize this is stupid of me, but I've been working at limiting my exposure to them for a number of years now, and it is a slow process. Another reason, which I know is also probably stupid, is for the sake of my other family members. I am very protective of my family, and in my teen years established something of a caretaker head of household role with them when my dad's alcoholism got really bad. I can't handle the thought of the stress and pain I would cause my mom and siblings if I were to cut them out of my life. I don't know if I could do that to them. I do love them, as flawed as they are. 4. After reading through most of the great comments you guys left, I think I'm going to simply get the surgery and not say anything. I live across the country from my family, and only see them 1 to 2 times a year for a week or so at a time. I probably won't be seeing them again until next Christmas. I could potentially get the surgery and mostly recover by then. If they notice, they notice. I realize by reading your comments that I don't owe them an explanation. If they push about it, I'll do what I normally do, and leave the situation before I get upset. It's not of their concern what I do with my body. Thank you all so very much for your kind words, they mean the world to me. Update. Hi everyone. I was so overwhelmed by the positive responses and well wishes back when I posted about this, that I thought I would update all of you on how things are going. So I had my surgery about a month ago, and it went well without any complications. I was in excruciating pain for the first couple days, but my husband was by my side 24/7 to help out. He had a week off from his work, so it worked out nicely, and I was able to wean myself off the narcotic painkillers they gave me after about 5 to 6 days. Since then, I've been on crutches, and still have about another 3 or so weeks of crutches to go, most likely. I don't want to get crazy specific about what my disability or surgery was for privacy purposes, so unfortunately that's all I can really say about it. It's been tedious, but the great thing about recovering from an injury or surgery, I suppose, is learning a new level of patience and endurance. I'm really happy with my recovery so far and the results I'm seeing already. I can't wait until I am recovered and strong enough to try walking without the crutches or any other device, and see what it's like. Leading up to the surgery and immediately after, I didn't tell anyone about it, not even my closest friends. I was kind of afraid of how word might get around, if people would bring it up or something. It got really difficult, though, to keep the secret, as my husband and I had to be careful about what we said and who we said it to. It felt like we were sneaking around, like we had something to be ashamed of. Finally, I told a couple close friends, who were very supportive. I wasn't planning on telling my family, but I finally did. I felt like I was lying by omission when my mom would call and ask how everything was, anything new, etc., and I would just try to act normal. I finally told her, plain and simple, yeah, so I had surgery about 2.5 weeks ago. She was pretty shocked, and she seemed genuinely hurt that I hadn't told her, not in what she said, but in her tone. She asked me why I hadn't mentioned anything, and I said that it had always been a very tense subject in the family, and I didn't want to bring it up. I think, somehow, that got through to her. She seemed genuinely regretful of the situation. She was speaking to me with shame in her voice. We didn't talk long, as I was studying, but later that night, I just kind of thought, to hell with it, and made a Facebook post coming out to my friends and other family members and letting them know what I had done. I wrote a narrative about what it was like growing up being different, the rude and hurtful things people would say, the feelings of shame and isolation that I felt, and how those feelings were so strong that I was debating whether or not I should even tell anyone. It was a positive post though, overall, as I tried to remind people that individuals with disabilities shouldn't be treated like an outcast or an exhibit. And honestly, I don't have time or room in my heart to feel angry or resentful. I am so hopeful for the future and looking forward to normal mobility. Everyone was incredibly supportive about the post, and my parents called me a bunch of times in the days after. We played phone tag a bit, and when I finally talked to my mom a couple days ago, she said she wanted to start looking at flights to come out here and visit me, and help out. I told her that wasn't necessary, that I was pretty used to the crutches now and the limited mobility I have, and she said she hopes I can reconsider in the next couple days, as it would make her feel a little bit better to be able to help me out, cook, shop, etc. Apparently me getting the surgery and intentionally not telling them, coupled with the FB post that my mom saw, I didn't call them out or anything in it, just talked in general about how difficult it was, made my parents feel horrendously guilty about the way I grew up and was treated. My mom wanted to try to make it up to me somewhat by flying out here and spending some time together. I appreciate the sentiment, and I'm glad that they're seeing the way they treated me in a new light, but I do think I'm honestly too busy in the next couple weeks to host a guest. I told her we could revisit the discussion in a couple weeks. So, everything is pretty great right now. I made peace a long time ago with the fact that I will never be completely comfortable or close with my family, but it's nice to know that people can change, or try to. I really appreciate the effort my parents are putting in, even if it's not necessary. It's the thought that counts, I guess. I don't want to say I'm glad they feel bad, but I'm kinda glad they feel bad. It shows that they're human, maybe there's some hope there. Anyway, thank you all again so much for your kindness and support. Your replies and massages meant everything to me, even if I didn't get around to responding to them. I read and appreciated every single one. Here's to good health and a good life. Goodbye. TLDR, got surgery without telling anyone, eventually found keeping secrets to be too difficult, and told some people. Ended up telling my family. They finally realized how shitty they had been, and now feel guilty and want to help me out. Everything went great, recovery is going well, and life is good. Stories number 5. AITJ for not agreeing to my boyfriend's open relationship rules. 25F. Very early on in the relationship with my boyfriend, 25M, he told me that he had to be in an open relationship. I hadn't been in one before, but I said I'd give it a try. And it was clear when we talked about it that either of us could sleep with whoever we wanted. I said okay that we've been dating for 11 months, and over time I really started to love him. I know he has quite a few very casual partners but no other serious relationships. I actually didn't have any other partners, though, because I was so happy just being with him. Then 2 months ago I was drunk and met a guy at a party, and we slept together. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong whatsoever, so when it came up with my boyfriend, I didn't try to hide it, but he was really upset. He said it was disrespectful for me to do that. I was kind of shocked. I'm fine with not sleeping with other people, but the problem is now he's really paranoid and controlling ever since then, accusing me of looking at other guys or flirting with them all the time, constantly checking my phone, wanting me to check in every hour when I'm out, and asking to track my location, etc. It's really bothering me. So basically he wants to have an open relationship only on his side. He says he loves me and that I should be loyal to him, but when I bring up how the rule doesn't apply to him, he gets angry. He says that so many men feel stuck in boring relationships and he's not going to be one of them and I shouldn't try to control him, etc. I get it, but it doesn't feel right. I love him a lot, but I'm seriously thinking about breaking up with him. Stories number 6. I haven't eaten in 2 days and have to pretend to my daughter that it's because I'm sick. I can't let her know it's because I can't afford food. In February, I finally managed to get my daughter and my cats away from my ex. He was abusive and my 8-year-old had at least 5 panic attacks because of him in less than 6 months. I knew things were going to be hard, but I have never imagined this. In April I managed to get back on my feet for a while, then, in the night before Easter, my house flooded. I lost most of the food I had in the pantry, all my cat's food, a tablet belonging to my daughter, clothes and books. It made us take 1,000 steps back. This week I was able to get a little food for my daughter and my cats. Last I've eaten was Wednesday, because what we have is coming to an end, and my daughter comes first. I cook only for her, and when she asks why I'm not eating, I'm saying I've been feeling unwell and can't eat. Truth is I'm starving. I've been living on tea, because the one I have is one my daughter doesn't like. If I tell her this, she will share with me, because she's the sweetest, but I can't take a single bite from her. I've been waiting on a response from a gov aid, but nothing so far. Stories number 7. I just got home to find a car parked on my drive plugged into my car charger. What can I do, and should I talk to the police? Title: I just got home to find a car parked on my drive plugged into my car charger. What can I do, and should I talk to the police? As the title says, I'm just back from a weekend away, and when we got home, we found a car on our drive plugged into our car charger. The outside gates have been opened to allow access, and the car seems to have been there for less than an hour and is on about 8% according to the charger. I've switched the charger off at the wall, so no more free electricity for them, and their charger cable is now locked to the box, default behavior when there is no power, and locked the gates shut. Do I report this to the police as theft, and what will they do? I know if they want to leave, I must release the gates. I've locked them to make sure they don't try to drive off. Can I leave the power off on the charger and hold the charging cable to ransom, assuming they can disconnect when there is no power? UK, Cambridge. Sum of comments. Commenter: your best bet would be to disconnect the charger and leave gates open. There's a small theft element here, but the amount is really too low for either civil or criminal action. Reply: it's the principle of the thing. I'm having to use a prepay parking ticket on my car so I can park down the road while they are merrily off shopping or whatever they are doing, thinking I'm charging their car. I assume if I leave them locked in, the police would come out and I would have to release them, which is fine, or I could just go out and leave them stranded. I'm just really annoyed and left wondering if they have done this before. Commenter: I understand. The issue I would be more concerned with is that this person knows where you live, and even if there's no immediate reaction, you may face issues down the line that will ultimately cost you more. Purely practical. Legally you are currently fine. And yes, you'd have to release them when they returned. Reply: I'm 205 centimeters tall and built like Georges-Henri Colombi, happy for them to try to cause bother, and in the mood I'm currently in. I hope they don't arrive soon. I think I'll talk to them through the doorbell camera and get them to call the police. Could this be a repeat offender? That was my worry. The house is often left during the day, 0800 to 1800, as I am out working. Do they do this regularly? I am going to put some security on the charger, if it's possible to do so, and check the doorbell camera, though that doesn't show the driveway very well. Commenter: unplug it. Do not just turn it off because it might lock the charger to the car, and that's not something you want to do. You can report it as theft, but the police will most likely do nothing. In the future, some chargers allow you to set a pin, or get a lock for it. Reply: the cable is already switched off at the wall, so it is trapped. Commenter: you might want to release it from the thief's car ASAP. They might break your charger lead when they decide to remove it with force. Reply: then the insurance company for the car will need to pay for a new one, which we need anyway. It's not like they can exit without calling at the house, plus it would be criminal damage. I've put the dog cam on the garage window so it's all recorded anyway now. Commenter, NLA, so it'll probably be removed, but can you set your charger only to work if approved? For example, I have to approve each plugin through the OM app and the controls on the charger itself are locked until that point. Reply, we are planning to upgrade the charger. This one is a really old OM one that was in when we moved in and needs to be changed anyway. We've not found a way to do anything but a 100% charge from it. Top comment. Commenter, contact the police and report it as theft. It's that simple. Record the registration mark and take a picture of the visible VIN to negate any attempt for them to say their plate was cloned. S13 Theft Act 1968. Abstracting of electricity. A person who dishonestly uses without due authority, or dishonestly causes to be wasted or diverted, any electricity shall on conviction on indictment be liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years. Update post. I don't know if this is allowed on this thread, but as so many people have DM'd me for an update, here it is. The car was still there when I left for work this morning. According to the 2 cameras, the owner returned at about 2,350, but after checking the locked gate and the charger, left without ringing the doorbell. I got a call this morning from my neighbors telling me that someone was using a cutting tool on the gate and that they had called the police. I went home and found the police, my neighbor and the car's owner on my drive. He was in his 50s and seemed to be some sort of businessman. He told the police he had been staying at the hotel just around the corner and that one of the hotel staff had told him that there was a charger in my drive he could use. Our house was empty for 6 months prior to us moving in, so perhaps they had been using it for guests for some time. The owner was very upset that I had locked them in, but the police kept everything calm. On inspection, they had already damaged the charger to retrieve their cable, and even though they denied this, it was clear from the dog cam footage that they did it. They had also damaged the gate quite badly while trying to open it. Upshot is that they were arrested for criminal damage to the gate and charger, and the police are arranging for their car to be removed as it has no charge, so it cannot be driven off. I'm off to have a serious conversation with the hotel manager and chase up the new charger as ours is now broken. Sum of comments. Commenter, I'm quite surprised, but happy, there was no mention from the police about you locking the gate. Was there? Anyway, staying tuned for part 3, the hotel. Reply, the police officer was quite happy that it was lawful to close and lock the gate, even though the owner said he'd sue me. The hotel manager and I had a chat over lunch. He thinks it's bullshit but will remind his staff and they have booted the guest out of the hotel. Editor's note, bolding my own because people missed this. Commenter, did they use any of your electricity? I would have thought that would be theft if they did. Otherwise the police seem to have everything in hand. If the guy broke the charger then you should see the police and pursue him for the funds to fix it. Reply, the police officer asked how much I thought they had stolen, so when I said maybe £1, they asked if I would be okay just dropping that. They are coming back later to take a statement, so I'll ask them then. Commenter, wow. Was the man in any way, shape or form apologetic to you? Also, what an absolute idiot to just accept the word of the hotel to park on a random driveway and steal electricity from a private residence. Reply, no apology, but he'd already been arrested at that point, so was off the scale annoyed. Commenter, an annoying, but satisfying outcome. I wonder if you can claim the damages from the car owner's car insurance. Otherwise you would be looking at a civil claim to resolve. Reply, spoke to my house insurers who said to put in a claim and they would deal with it. Police also said they would look for a costs order to compensate us. Commenter, love this. Absolutely delighted that police attended, caught the dickhead, and arrested him. That's such a result. Have fun suing him for the damage to your gate and charger. Reply, that will be our insurance company, as they are taking it over from here. Commenter, hey OP, if the hotel has been recommending people to use your charger before you moved in, could there not be possible issues with the energy usage documented by the previous owner and the meter reading you, hopefully, document when you moved in? If so, who would the energy company come after, as there would definitely be an issue if several cars have used it over a 6-month period? Reply, we had the meter readings done when we moved in, and for most of the time, the space has had a car or a skip in it. I've not noticed anything untoward on the Octopus app in terms of usage, so I think this is the first time it has happened since we took it over. I get free charging at work, so don't often plug my car in, and BF doesn't have an EV yet. Stories number 8. AITA for getting mad that dad started doing our special thing with his stepdaughter. Ever since my brother, 18M, and I, 16F, were little we each had a special thing to do with each parent. My brother and mom used to go ice skating together and mom and I went to baking classes together. Dad and my brother always hike in the same place together and go to the same diner afterward, and mine and dad's thing was to star watch together and turn it into a picnic. Those things were always something that was just for me and my brother and the parent we did them with. It wasn't family time. It was something we saved for doing with each other. I remember when I was 9 and my grandpa offered to take me star watching because dad was sick, and my dad got so upset with grandpa, his dad, he was so jealous. I'd never have said yes anyway, but seeing Dad get jealous made me happy because I realized he treasured it too. I told Grandpa I didn't mind waiting for Dad to feel better. After Mom died, the stuff we did with Dad became more important. I was 10 and my brother was 12. 2 years ago Dad remarried and Dad kept our special things special, for a while. But I found out recently that Dad was doing the star watching with his stepdaughter, 12. He was keeping it from me, and when I found out I told him I wasn't doing it with him anymore, and he ruined and spoiled our special thing and I'd go with Grandpa in the future. My dad got jealous about that and I screamed at him that he already took someone else, so why can't I? I told him I thought he treasured it, but no, that was just me. That he'd never hike the mountain he and my brother go to with anyone else, and he was like, of course not. My dad ended up telling his stepdaughter they couldn't star watch anymore. She was really upset. My dad's wife was upset too, and they argued, and now she's angry with me because I'm still mad at my dad and I haven't given in and agreed that it's our special thing still. As dumb as it is, the fact Dad wouldn't be okay with me doing it with someone else should prove why he spoiled it for me. Especially when he protects his and my brother's things so much. My brother and Dad's wife got into a fight because she was calling me selfish and spoiled and trying to put her daughter's hurt feelings onto me, and my brother defended me. Dad keeps telling me he doesn't want me to see our star watching as ruined, and he told me he can make it up to me. I told him he can't and that he knew it was wrong because he lied to me months if not more than a year. Right now I have my dad's wife blaming me and her son, 15. They blame me for their daughter's sister being upset. I told them to blame Dad, but they said she wouldn't be hurt if I had accepted Dad doing it with her too. Stories number 9. Top lying to get dates with people you aren't compatible with. Tonight was another exhausting reminder of how some people just don't listen. 2 hours of my life gone, a full face of makeup wasted, and for what? To sit across from someone who lied just to get the date. I don't do drugs. I don't want to date someone who does. That's not me being judgmental, that's me being clear about my values. I said it in my profile. I said it before we met. And yet, there I was, being told, well, it's not a big deal. You might change your mind. No. I won't. I also work in a politically charged field. Politics aren't just some dinner table topic to avoid, they are literally my job. They shape my daily life. If we have completely opposing values, we're not going to work. It's not personal. It's just reality. But this guy. He dismissed it all. Said he was neutral, then turned the conversation into a condescending rant filled with Reddit-level hot takes and zero actual understanding. I didn't sign up to be someone's debate opponent on my own date. And the worst part? This isn't new. This has happened multiple times. People lie or stay vague to pass through the filters, hoping they'll be so charming in person that I'll abandon what I believe in. Newsflash, I won't. You are allowed to have your preferences. I'm allowed to have mine. But manipulating your way into someone's life by hiding your real deal breakers? That's dishonest. It's manipulative. And frankly, it's exhausting. I'm done giving my time and energy to people who show up as someone else just to get in the door. Let people date those they're actually compatible with. It saves everyone the headache. Update, still furious, still done. It's been 24 hours and I'm still stewing. Not because I regret walking away, but because I'm starting to realize just how common this problem is. After my rant, I got messages from friends and even acquaintances who've gone through the same exact thing. Dates where people lied about religion, about wanting kids, about substance use, even about being in an open relationship, only dropping the truth once you're already sitting across the table, half a cocktail deep, trying not to explode. The guy from last night had the nerve to text me today like nothing happened. Said, hey, had a good time last night, we should do it again, maybe without the politics. Oh, you mean the thing I said from the beginning was a non-negotiable part of my life? The literal core of my values? The career I've worked my ass off for? It's not even about politics. It's about respect. It's about honesty. If you can't show up on day one as your real self, what kind of relationship do you think we're building? You want me to compromise who I am just because you were charming for 45 minutes and didn't sweat through your shirt? I'm not doing that anymore. So yeah, I'm still single. But at least I'm not pretending, and I'm not being lied to by the person I'm supposed to trust the most. I'll take that kind of alone over that kind of together any day. Update 2, I'm not angry anymore, I'm just tired. The weirdest part. After all that, after I blocked him and thought I was done, he showed up at my office. Like full on, in person, smiling like this was some rom-com moment instead of a huge red flag. He brought coffee. Said he wanted to clear the air. No apology. No acknowledgement that he'd lied to get a date. Just more charm. More deflection. More, why does it matter so much if we get along? Because getting along isn't the same as being compatible. Because chemistry isn't enough when you're building a life. Because respect isn't negotiable. I was polite, but I told him to leave. And when I got back to my desk, I just sat there, drained. Not heartbroken. Not sad. Just, tired, because it keeps happening. These men think they can lie to get in the door, then charm their way into my time, my energy, my life, and when it doesn't work, I'm the villain for caring too much or being too rigid. I don't think I'm asking for too much. I just want honesty. And basic alignment. And maybe someone who doesn't treat my boundaries like they're a puzzle to crack. I know he'll spin it. He'll tell someone I was too intense. Too political. Too serious. Let him, because I'm finally realizing that I don't want to be palatable, I want to be respected. And if that makes dating harder, so be it. Update 3, it's wild how low the bar really is. So, I went on another date. I almost cancelled because I didn't want to go through another evening of pretending to be okay with being disrespected. But this guy. He actually read my profile. He didn't just skim it, he referenced specific things I'd written and asked thoughtful questions about my work. More importantly, he didn't argue with my deal breakers. He acknowledged them. Like a normal adult, I told him up front, I'm not here to debate basic values. I want kids. I want someone who believes in the work I do. I don't want to be with someone who uses drugs. I said it all without apology, and he just nodded and said, that makes sense. You should get to have what you want. I almost cried. Not because I'm in love or anything, too soon for that, but because of how rare it is to feel heard instead of handled. No love bombing. No gaslighting. No, both sides, arguments. Just respect. It reminded me that I'm not too much. I'm not asking for too much. I'm just asking the wrong people, so we'll see where this goes. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something. But even if it ends tomorrow, it showed me that it's possible to be valued for being honest and clear, and that alone. Worth every past disappointment. Update 4, turns out respect is the bare minimum, and still rare. So, remember that guy who actually listened? The one who didn't try to debate me on my values? We went on a second date. It started great. We laughed, we had solid chemistry, and he seemed genuinely interested in my work. But midway through dinner, he hit me with, "You're really intense. Like, you probably intimidate a lot of guys." I just sat there. Fork in hand. Processing, because when someone says that, it's not a compliment. It's a warning. I asked what he meant. He said, "You're very opinionated. I just think relationships are about compromise, and you don't seem very flexible." There it was. The quiet part, spoken aloud, that I was good enough to impress, but not good enough to be accepted as is. That having clear values and expectations equals inflexible. I smiled politely. Ate my food. Paid for my half. And I walked away knowing I dodged something that looked good for 2 dates, but wasn't built for the long haul. Because I'm not here to be tolerated. Or softened. Or explained away. I'm not here to be a project. I'm here to build something real, and real can't grow in resentment. So no, I'm not discouraged. I'm sharper now. Calmer. And if that scares people off, then good. Let them go. I'd rather be alone than slowly erased. Update 5, the best decision I've made. After that last date, I made a vow to myself, no more compromising my core values. I took a little break from dating, just focused on me. Work. My hobbies. My friends. Rediscovered things I'd set aside while trying to make someone else happy. It felt good. And then, a few weeks later, I met someone. He was upfront about his values. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't afraid of honest conversations. He respected my career, my politics, and my decisions. He didn't try to change me, and I didn't feel the need to change him. We spent hours just talking about everything. Politics. Family. Where we saw ourselves in 10 years. And even in those deeper moments, he didn't waver, he respected my deal breakers, and I respected his. There was no manipulation, no trying to fit into a mold. We were just, us. It didn't take long to realize, this is how it should be. We're taking things slow, but I finally feel like I'm not settling for the bare minimum. This relationship is based on mutual respect, not pretending to be someone I'm not. And that's the most fulfilling connection I've had in a long time. So yeah, to all the guys who lied, manipulated, or tried to push me into compromising my core values. Thanks for the lessons. But now, I'm done playing games. I'm choosing me, and the right person will meet me where I stand. And that's exactly how I want it to be. Stories number 10. Aunt of nephew I'm babysitting shames me for not speaking their first language. Okay, people of Reddit. I have officially encountered someone that I wonder how they are not embarrassed by their actions. Names are fake. I have been babysitting this boy, Daniel, for about twice a week for about 6 or 7 hours a day. His mom stays at home and I'm there to keep her son entertained as she cleans or gets to rest for a bit. Now this family is wonderful. The mother and father treat me like a family member and it's amazing. Now, I usually arrive at their house after the mom, Maria, calls her family-in-laws. I arrive later in the morning and Maria usually wakes up early to call them because of time difference. This time, however, Maria gives me her phone, with her mother and father on the other side. She leaves to do work downstairs and Daniel is being entertained by his grandmother and grandfather. I sit beside Daniel, watching over him, and just not butting in. That phone call goes smoothly. It's the next phone call that makes me irritated. Maria's sister, Tiffany, calls. I answer and basically do the same thing. Don't talk and just watch over Daniel. Then, out of the blue, she starts talking to me. I'm like, oh, she maybe wants to speak to me because I'm the babysitter. I introduce myself and so does she. Daniel starts to fuss and I start to hold him. Now, Maria's family is bilingual. They speak English and Spanish, so Daniel says some things in Spanish and some things in English. I know very little Spanish. Best I can do is count to 10. Since babysitting Daniel, I've picked up some Spanish but not a lot as I don't have good memory and don't practice it outside of their house as nobody in my family speaks Spanish. Anyway, Tiffany asks if I know any Spanish. I tell her the truth. That I barely know any but I'm starting to pick up some words. She responds with a laugh and says I will learn Spanish as I go. Which I thought were words of encouragement. Like she was just trying to be helpful. I mean, it wouldn't be bad if I picked up even a little Spanish. But what's crazy is the remarks she kept making about me on how I couldn't speak Spanish. She was very condescending and spoke to me as if I was lesser than her. She kept speaking to Daniel in Spanish. Which, I don't care, but it's the way my name kept popping up when she was speaking to him that didn't sit right with me. I just knew she was talking crap about me, or that's what my gut feeling said, anyway. Could be wrong, but it felt like she was talking crap about me. Been bullied enough times to know when someone's talking crap about me even if they're speaking another language lol. Anyway, after about an hour of her continuous comments about how I couldn't speak Spanish and her talking to Daniel, she had to go. When she asked for kisses from Daniel, I feel like I won. You know why? He started to give kisses to me instead of her. I will let everyone know this. I do kinda have anger issues. I've been working on them and I'm proud to say I'm getting better at controlling my anger and I haven't lashed out at anybody in a year. So when Daniel started to kiss my cheek, even with his aunt trying to tell him, no, kiss me, kiss the screen, blow me a kiss, all the anger that was simmering and starting to boil vanished. It evaporated. When she hung up I felt overjoyed. And, honestly, I wish I could have given Daniel a medal. He wouldn't have understood why, of course, but he was a true hero in that scenario. I honestly thought about telling Maria about what Tiffany was saying to me, but I didn't. Her family arrives in about 2 days and I didn't want to start any drama. I mean, I'm probably never going to see or speak to Tiffany again. And if I do, it'll be through a phone and only for maybe an hour. I did the right thing, right? Honestly, the petty in me is saying to tell Maria. But my logic is saying it's unnecessary. So I'm being good by not telling her, right? I shouldn't potentially create drama for a little thing like this. Plus, Daniel got revenge for me lol. Anyway, thank you for letting me vent this story to you all. Hope you found joy in it. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you'd better tell her. The aunt did talk about you, in Spanish, to a child. Just explain that it makes you uncomfortable and that you've already had a bad experience like this and that you don't want it to happen again or you'll no longer be able to look after a little boy who adores you. Think about him too, he shouldn't be exposed to this kind of behavior and think it's normal. He may have kissed you now, but let's not forget that a young child can be impressionable. Reply, OMG you're so right. I didn't even think about that. Thank you. Commenter 2, or ask your boss if she would like you to learn more Spanish. Let her know that the aunt was speaking Spanish for about an hour to Daniel, but you couldn't understand much more than your name, which she mentioned several times, and that you suspect by the tone that it might not have been very nice. Reply, my boss only said I needed to learn few words to understand her son. Like shoes, help, water, etc. in Spanish. I don't need to learn Spanish, it was never a requirement. So, yeah, I'll tell my boss. I didn't want to cause an argument, since she's coming so soon, but she probably will get worse once she gets here. Commenter 3, whatever she was saying to Daniel made him love you even more. She was no doubt belittling you and or telling him not to like you. He knows you and knew what she was saying was very wrong. Even a baby can pick up on bad vibes. Reply, that's very true. Commenter 4, I think you should tell your boss and tell her that you feel uncomfortable with the situation and maybe the sister can call, when she is around and not you. And tell her that the sister kept talking about you in Spanish and you don't feel well with the situation. They hired you as a babysitter, they should not let their relatives bother you. Update. So, hey guys, here with an update. And I got Tiffany in trouble. Okay, so here's the tea. I babysat early in the morning again. And Maria had called Tiffany. Maria went downstairs and Tiffany had started acting out. Again. So, what did I do this time? Well, I might have started screen recording on Maria's phone. I thought over the comments the night before I was babysitting again, but I decided not to tell Maria unless I had evidence. I mean, they're family. I also don't want to lose Maria's trust by saying Tiffany did something and then Tiffany saying she didn't and me being let go of the job. Anyway, after recording and Tiffany hanging up, I start playing with Daniel until he goes downstairs for his nap. Maria and I are alone watching Daniel from the baby monitor as we start making some food. This is where I drop the bomb. I tell her what Tiffany has been doing. Now, I don't know much Spanish. So I don't know what Tiffany had been saying about me. But judging by Maria's expression as she watched an hour's worth of Tiffany being on the phone, I can tell it's kinda bad. Maria apologized to me, which I told her she didn't have to because it wasn't her fault, but she was insistent on apologizing because, in her words, Tiffany is family. And she shouldn't have said that to you. Anyway, after that, she started calling people. Probably family, as she was speaking fast in Spanish. She sounded upset, rightfully so. She had called multiple people while I watched Daniel on the baby monitor. I also saw that Tiffany had tried calling Maria a few times only to be ignored. Tiffany and the rest of Maria's family will be visiting in like 1 or 2 days, so I hope I didn't start any major conflict, but Maria definitely needed to know. If I find out anything else I'll update y'all. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, updates when you can please. Also, make sure to record her again cause you just know she's gonna go after you when she gets a chance. Reply, will do. I will definitely record her again. She's coming soon as well, which makes me more nervous. I know I won't likely run into her, but I can't shake the feeling I will. Commenter 2, yay for the win. Auntie is SOO wrong in many ways, but please take some knowledge from an EAL professional. Having a native English L1 speaker spending a good amount of quality time with their bilingual child will only do wonders for his understanding and development of English. He already has lots of family in his life to teach him their perfect LI Spanish. I would not be surprised to hear that his parent chose an LI English speaker specifically for that purpose. Bilingual people recognize the value in immersion in L1 language use to further deepen understanding. For anyone who doesn't understand, don't try to communicate with a child in your flawed L2, if the child is bilingual. It will hamper their development of that language. I hope you have lots of fun working with that little delight and continue to enjoy working for his parents. Stories number 11. I called the girl my boyfriend has been talking to, now I don't know what to do. So yesterday I called the girl my boyfriend has been talking to at work and found out she's a lesbian with a wife and kids. She told me she doesn't find him attractive at all and said she never even got the idea that he found her attractive, because he only ever talked about me in their conversations, and she only talked about her wife and son. After he texted me apologizing and promising he wouldn't text her anymore, I found out he messaged her again. They talked about why they're never paired to work together at the same location. He works at an airport, and he told her, they know it wouldn't be good. Then he deleted their messages again and lied to me, saying he wasn't texting her. And he also told me that he was only texting her because he wanted to see how far he could go with her, but he wouldn't actually do anything physical with her. But he asked her to hang out with him outside of work. She declined, saying she didn't want to do that. He claimed that the only reason he did this was because she's a lesbian. It feels like he's trying to pursue her outside of work because he finds her attractive, even though she seemed surprised by the idea. She also called me insecure for contacting her, but I was just looking for clarity. I feel stuck on how to handle his lying and deleting messages on top of everything else. Stories number 12. AITA for not taking an 11-year-old's word for it. My 20, dad made some friends when he studied abroad. One of them is on a visit in our country right now, and he brought his daughter, 11, with him. He asked if I could take her to our national museum since it's good for kids to practice some art appreciation. I said, sure. She wasn't very enthusiastic about it though. When we were waiting for the opening time, she pointed at a nearby cafe and asked if I could buy her a cup of coffee, saying it's the least I could do before making her spend 2 hours look at some boring stuff. I hesitated and she said her dad lets her drink latte, so I called him just to check. He said yes before asking, "Did you think my daughter is a liar?" And I didn't know what to say. It didn't occur to me that that was what I was insinuating when I was expressing my doubt. I just wanted to be sure. Ended up buying her oat milk latte, her preference, before taking her on a tour. Don't know if I was too anxious, but when I took her back to the hotel her dad seemed kind of frosty towards me. Stories number 13. That time a neighborhood kid got even on the asshole delivery guy. This one happened a few years ago. Our mail carrier changed and the new guy, call him Dave, was an absolute asshole. Trod on flower beds, rude to people. But the real kicker was Dave would pee in a bottle, and if he was in a bad mood, that bottle would be thrown in someone's garden. If you tell him to throw the bottle in the trash, he'd throw it at you. Dave was the son of the postmaster, Bob, an older guy of the boys will be boys mindset, and best friends with the local sheriff, Steve. If you talked to Bob about his son, it'd be excuses. He's a foster kid, he's had a hard life, and on and on. If you went to Steve then it'd be boys will be boys, Dave was in his 30s, or postmaster Bob is dealing with it personally. One day in the middle of summer the neighborhood kids got to see mailman Dave being his usual sunny self. Seems Dave was mean to them too. The kids were out playing with their water pistols and one of them had this real high-power thing which sent the water a good 10 feet or more, and the kid who owned it, Orrin, was a great shot. It's a lovely day, 30-degree sun, and I'm out back putting out dinner. Suddenly there's this blood-curdling scream from Dave and the whole neighborhood comes running to see what happened. Turns out Orrin had loaded his water pistol with one of Dave's pee bottles, and topped it off with a can of Red Bull. So now Dave was covered in this disgusting, sticky, pea and sugar mess, which was starting to stink to high heaven. One of my neighbors offered to let Dave use her shower, he ran off to another house, grabbed the hose and turns it on himself. So now Dave is sticky, pea-soaked and wet. He ditched everything in the street and ran off. Steve and Bob went walking the street that afternoon, we'd all not seen anything, of course. Bob had the bright idea of asking Orrin, who told him exactly what we all thought of Dave and how he was acting, in the way only a bright-eyed 12-year-old can. Bob and Steve cornered Orrin's dad. "Is this your son? Do you know what he did?" Without missing a beat, Orrin's dad fired back. "Well, Sheriff Steve, don't you always say, boys will be boys?" We never saw Dave again. But Orrin's birthday party was huge that year. God bless that kid. Stories number 14. AITA for refusing to chip in for a coworker's wedding gift after literally being uninvited. Alright AITA PPL, I'ma need your hot takes on this office drama that's been driving me insane. So I, 27F, have been working at this marketing agency for about 2 years. My coworker Jess, 31F, is getting married next month and initially invited our whole team, 8 people, to her wedding. We're not like beasties besties, but definitely friendly, lunch together sometimes, happy hours, the usual work friend stuff. Last week our office manager Sarah started collecting money for a group gift. She's asking for $200 each, which would get us some fancy kitchen gadget from their registry. That's basically what I'd budget for someone I'm actually friends with, but whatever, I was planning to contribute. Well, yesterday I got the most awkward text from Jess saying they had to make some cuts to the guest list and unfortunately they couldn't accommodate me anymore. Something about venue capacity and family additions. But here's the kicker, I know for a fact that everyone else on our team is still invited. This morning Sarah comes by my desk asking for my contribution to the gift fund. I politely told her that since I'm no longer invited, I'd rather get Jess a smaller gift on my own. Sarah looked shocked and said, but it's a team gift, and that not contributing the full amount would mess up the group harmony, like I give a single fuck. The icing on the cake. I know the wedding cut was because Jess invited her old coworker who just got a VP position at a major client. Suddenly there's no room for me, but I'm still expected to drop $200 on her registry. Can someone please tell me the truth if I'm the asshole for refusing to contribute the full amount to a wedding I'm not even attending? Stories number 15. AITA for canceling the trip after my husband said that it was his reward for putting up with my pregnancy moods. My husband and I work full-time. I planned a weekend trip for us recently and I was going to cover the costs. The pregnancy was really tough for me, especially with me working, and I've been dealing with postpartum depression and have been doing most of the childcare and housework and have been tired and sick and in pain for a long time and haven't been getting sleep. When I was discussing it with my husband, he casually said it was his reward for putting up with my pregnancy moods and laughed. I didn't know how to respond and asked him to explain, and he doubled down saying like he can get a break from the roller coaster of stress I've caused him dealing with me, and he said we have to get really intimate the whole trip since I haven't been fulfilling his needs when he wants, and that he thinks the trip idea is good so I can get back to normal. I was upset and felt he didn't respect how difficult this has been for me and talked like I'm a burden to him and that my pregnancy was just an inconvenience to him. Like this trip is his reward for tolerating me. After a while I told him I cancelled the trip and that it felt like he's describing me as just a problem to him, and he called me oversensitive and said I was ruining his chance for fun and was punishing him for just being honest about his needs, and he got upset at me. AITA. Stories number 16. My 20F boyfriend, 22M, has become very obsessed with my fertility and hormones, and it doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? My boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. I do want children, which he knows. At least 2, and at the very most, 4. I know it can be difficult, but it has been what I have wanted for a very long time. But not yet, obviously, perhaps in 8 or so years. I believe that if you are to be a good parent, you should be able to provide for your child, and I am still studying, so I think it is important that I am in a good job by the time I have children. It is common sense really, but despite this, my boyfriend has become very odd about my fertility. I take the contraceptive pill, which I am aware isn't very good for you, but without it, my periods are very painful, inducing crying kind of painful, and I don't like dealing with that, so I take it. He has been telling me about how it is not good for you hormonally, it takes a long time for your body to get over it when you do want a child, and it is just not very good. He tells me I shouldn't be taking it, that I'm ruining my body systems or something like that, and he always brings it up and it makes me upset. Without it, I can't tolerate my period, it's too bad, and it means I can't do anything for a whole week and it's very disruptive. He says it isn't that bad, but that's because he hasn't known me without it, it is not a very nice sight without it. He also brings up my age, and how it is already declining, and if we wait too long, we will have to do IVF and all these things. But I don't think it's already declining. As far as I know, that happens when you're in your 30s, and I'm definitely not. He just suddenly has all these opinions about what I should be taking and what I should be eating and all these things, but I eat healthily, and there are no magic foods that preserve fertility. The whole thing is very annoying, to be honest. He uses all of this to target things as well, like my hair, which isn't even related. Because my hair can get quite tangled and frizzy, it's very wavy, and I'm not great at dealing with it, but that has nothing to do with my hormones, and it's been this way since I was a child. I don't understand why he is focused on this. There are no issues in my family with having children, and we are hardly at an age where we need to think about this much. Obviously I don't want to be infertile, but even if I was, there are all these things that can be done now, so it wouldn't even be a big deal. I don't know, perhaps he is paranoid about it himself, but I don't know why he is making it my issue when I honestly don't care about it. It is very confusing because he hadn't really talked about it before, and now it feels obsessive, and sometimes ruins our time together, which I don't like. Maybe it is a male thing, but I don't understand it at all. Edit, I have stayed awake through the night and for too long, so I am going to sleep now. Thank you for the responses, I appreciate them and they are helpful, and I will read the ones that I haven't yet later, when I have woken up and am not so lightheaded. Stories number 17. AITA for refusing to care for my father's grave after his widow treated my family and I like intruders at her grave. My father died 2 years ago. He raised me for 11 years alone and then married his wife, Olive. My mother was never in the picture, she took off as soon as I was born. Olive was a widow with 3 teenagers from her first husband. At first we got along well. I didn't have any complaints. It was only when my dad became ill that she started to show her true colors. She didn't want me to be too involved with dad's care but would ask me to help her by doing her errands for her. It was incredibly difficult. I was very close to my father and not seeing him often enough was awful. I tried my best. My kids wanted to see him too, but Olive wasn't okay with this. When my father died, Olive made it very clear we were not welcome at her grave. It started with her questioning why I was stopping by. Then her saying we couldn't go XYZ days. Then it was taking off drawings my kids made for the grave and discarding them within a day or two. She'd put random drawings her grandkids did instead. And she complained that my kids' drawings were trash being left on the grave. She told me she didn't want trash on her grave and she made it very clear she would be the only other person buried there, so my family and I stopped going. I told my husband it wasn't fair to the kids. That it upset them to see old drawings of Olive's grandkids left on the grave but none of theirs. Even little grave ornaments we purchased were discarded. Anything with dad and grandpa was too. Now Olive is battling some ill health and cannot make it to the grave. Her kids never liked my dad and won't help her take care of it, so she asked me to do it for her. I refused and pointed out her behavior. While this might sound petty, I know she'll only go back to her old ways once she's able to care for it herself again. And I don't want to be messed around or let her mess my kids around. Stories number 18. AITA for not telling my section head that my fan was in my car. It was really hot at work today and yesterday, so yesterday I bought in my 5-inch fan to sit on my desk and blast at my face, which really helps. I know it doesn't bring the temp down, but it makes it okay to work in the heat. The section head saw that I had it and asked if she could borrow it for a bit, and I didn't want to, but she was overheating, so I said yes. When I asked for it back about half an hour later, she said that she still needed it as she was going to be on a call and had to be focused and not sweaty, so I said okay, but I was really getting hot by this point. After the call ended, which took another hour, I came to fetch the fan and she looked really annoyed, but I took it back. Then she said she needed to get some work done and so needed a fan, and so made me give it back to her, and then she kept it for the rest of the day. I was quite annoyed and really hot by the end of the day, and by the time she gave it back to me it had run out of battery and it uses the old USB port, so I couldn't plug it in. So I charged it last night, and today I decided to leave it in my car as I didn't want to bring it up just for someone else to use, I guess, and she asked if I had it and I said no. Then later she left for lunch and I was hot again, so I went and got it and cooled down. It was really great. Then when she came back she said that she thought I had said I didn't have it, and then I said that's right, it was in my car, and she said that I should have said that, and I think I was allowed to say I didn't have it. Anyway, she basically took it then, saying she needed it for a call like she did yesterday. Also, there aren't really any shops around the office, only a sandwich bar, so you couldn't really go and get one, although we do have Amazon deliveries. So anyway, I don't want to bring in my fan just for someone else to use, so I think I'll stop or hide it, but I don't think I was wrong to not say it was in my car. AITA. Stories number 19. To fool by third wheeling so hard I didn't realize I was on their date. So this just happened and I'm still trying to process the fact that I've been the emotional support background character in someone else's love story. I live with my female friend, let's call her A. We're chill, we're roommates, nothing weird. We also have this guy friend, B, who's been hanging around our place a lot lately. And I, in my infinite naivety, thought we were all just really tight buddies. Like sitcom level friend group. Ah, look at us, the trio. I thought. Fast forward to yesterday, the three of us go out for dinner, cracking jokes, sharing food, even walked back like one of those cute friend groups you see in a Netflix coming-of-age montage. I was vibing so hard I almost posted a story with, best night ever. Plot twist, it was their date. I was the garnish. The decorative parsley on their romantic steak. Anyway, we get home, I'm sitting there talking about how we should all do a trip together or start a podcast or something, and suddenly A gets all weird and quiet. I ask if she's okay and she blurts out, I can't keep lying. We have been dating for the past few weeks, and just like that, B casually walks into her room, she follows, door shuts, and I'm left sitting in the living room with the ghosts of all our past fake friendship outings. Now I'm just here questioning every moment like I'm in the post-credit scene of a murder mystery. That one time they accidentally ordered one dessert with 2 spoons. That time I was stuck in the back seat like an Uber driver while they joked about holding hands. That movie night where they sat suspiciously close and I thought the couch was just small. Nope. I was just third wheeling the whole damn time like a clueless extra with no lines. TLDR, thought I was hanging with 2 best friends. Turns out they were dating the whole time and only told me after midnight, right before locking themselves in her room. I was the third wheel on their relationship. Stories number 20. AIO for locking my bedroom door after my cousin kept going through my stuff. I'm a 17-year-old girl living with my parents, and recently my aunt and cousin, who's 15, moved in for a few weeks while their house is being renovated. At first, I was totally fine with it, we get along pretty well, and I even let her hang out in my room. But after a few days, I started to notice that my skincare products were being used. Then I saw that my makeup bag was messier than I had left it. I didn't say anything at first, but it just kept getting worse. She even wore one of my hoodies to school. When I asked her about it, she just shrugged and said, "Oh, I thought you didn't wear it." I politely told her to stop using my stuff, but she just laughed and said I was being too possessive. My aunt chimed in, saying, "She's just borrowing it, you're older, so be nice." So, I decided to buy a removable door lock online and started using it when I'm not home. Now everyone's calling me dramatic and saying I'm creating tension in the house. I feel like I'm just trying to set some boundaries, but now my mom is telling me I need to share and be the bigger person. AIO for locking my room. An update has been posted. Check that out too. Stories number 21. AITH for giving my wife an ultimatum on her male best friend due to what he did before our wedding years ago. My wife and I have been married for about 5 years. And something I learned from her male friend's GF was that he confessed his love to my wife the night before. She told me they got into a fight about this, and figured I should know. So I confronted my wife about this, and she admitted it. I yelled at her, and asked how the fuck she could keep this from me and how the fuck she thought it was appropriate to have him at our wedding. She told me she didn't want to ruin our wedding day, and I told she's not fuck stupid enough to not know I'd want to know this. See, this male friend always made me uneasy from the start. She told me that she has no feelings for him. After this, if I trust her. I told her that if she even wants me to consider staying with her, she needs to cut off her friend. Stories number 22. AITA for telling my coworker, I don't need to stop crocheting while on break BC they are there. This is my first time posting, sorry about the long post but I need to get some different views on this and plus sorry in advance, I am not a great speller, sorry if there are mistakes, 20F, starting to crocheting again after a year's break. And I am bring my projects to work and only crochets on my lunch rest breaks and I have been doing this about 2 weeks now. Sometimes our lunch breaks line up with each and most of the time everyone is on their phone or in their own place. I am usually crochet and listening to a podcast watching a video, with my earphones in, and if someone wants to talk with me, I put my project down and take my earphones out, but if they don't, I am working on the project. I got this one co-worker, Mary not her real name, mid-60s F, about 2 days ago, she came into the break room and I was already there and I am crocheting, when I saw her, I said hi and smile, then went back to my project. She sat down and was on her phone. About 10 minutes goes by and I feel a tap on my shoulder, I look up and I saw Mary, so I stopped crocheting and paused what I was listening to. I asked Mary what's up and she said it was rude to be crocheting while she was here. I am surprised as she is basically always on her phone and watching video, without earphones, so can hear what she is watching, which is usually Facebook Reels. I apologizes but said I am not stopping crocheting on my lunch breaks BC she is there. She got mad and complained to my manager about me. My manager said I am allowed to crochet on my breaks but I should be more aware on how rude it can be to others. Some of my other coworkers are on my side and others see Mary view. I have been staying away from Mary at the moment. But I don't know so AITA. Edit, thank you everyone for being so nice and giving some advice on my problem. To give a little background Mary and I joined working basically on the same day, we have been here around 2 months now. Mary is an okay coworker, most of the time, but she can be a bit old-fashioned, e.g., one of my co-workers goes by they them and Mary always misgender them. I am a little bit socially awkward sometimes but I do get along with mostly everyone I work with. The break room is pretty small, it has one big table with about 8 chairs, most people on break at the same time would be around 3 to 5 people, but I rarely have the same break time as Mary, as we both work in the same area. Plus when I am listening to something, it is always low volume and I have one earphone out, the only time I put both earphones in, is if someone is playing something from the phone speaker. I am sorry I can't reply to all of yours comments, I did not expect this much grinning face with sweat, but to answer some of the questions. I am planning to speak to manager about this, I'll be working tomorrow with Mary and I probably update if anything happens. Plus crochet is quite uses one hook, as knitting uses 2 needles and makes the clicking clack sound. Plus we work in a reception type of job, cafe retail, I work at a museum. I hope this might clear things up. I am working tomorrow with her, and there is a high chance our breaks will line up together. So let's see how it go and I'll try to update you all. Stories number 23. AITA for refusing to let my sister's toxic friend stay with me after she lied to my parents and made me the bad guy. So, a bit of backstory, I, 26F, have a younger sister, 22F, and while we're pretty close, she has this one friend, Sarah, 23F, who I've never really gotten along with. Sarah has always been super manipulative and has a tendency to lie to get attention, but my sister has always brushed it off. Recently, Sarah's behavior reached a new level, and it's causing major tension in our family. Sarah had been staying at our parents' house for a while because she was having issues at home. Long story short, her parents are divorced and there's some drama there. My parents were kind enough to let her stay, but recently Sarah got into a huge argument with them about something trivial, and she decided to storm out, claiming they were unfair. So, Sarah asked my sister if she could stay at my place for a while. I'm super big on boundaries, especially when it comes to my living space, so I said no at first. I didn't want to get caught in the middle of her drama, and I knew it would cause tension between me and my sister. But my sister begged, saying that Sarah had nowhere else to go and that she'd only be there for a few days. Reluctantly, I agreed to let her crash on my couch for a week. Things immediately started going downhill. Sarah was super messy, would make passive-aggressive comments about how unwelcoming my place felt, and didn't respect any of my rules. One night, after I asked her to clean up after herself, she went behind my back and told my parents that I was being cold and rude to her and refused to let her stay, which was a total lie. I had already agreed for her to stay. I didn't find out until my parents called me to ask what was going on. They were furious and told me I needed to apologize and make up with Sarah. I was livid. I told my parents the truth, that I had let Sarah stay with me, but she had completely disrespected my space and made things uncomfortable. Still, they sided with Sarah, saying I should just tolerate her for the sake of family peace. At this point, I had had enough. I told my sister that Sarah could no longer stay with me because I was not going to be manipulated by her or anyone else. My sister tried to guilt-trip me, saying I was being a bad sister and I should just deal with it. After a huge argument, I kicked Sarah out of my place. Now, my parents and sister are angry at me, and Sarah is spreading rumors that I'm a terrible person. I feel like I did the right thing, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being too harsh. AITA for refusing to let my sister's toxic friend stay with me, even though my family is mad. Stories number 24. I found a letter from my late dad, in a book he never finished. I, 27F, lost my dad unexpectedly 3 years ago. It was one of those phone calls that changes your life. We were close. Not overly emotional with each other, but I knew he loved me, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about him. Last week, I was cleaning out a storage box of old books that used to sit on his nightstand. Most of them were classic thrillers or biographies, but there was one I had never seen before, The Alchemist, by Paulo Coelho. The pages were stiff like it had never been opened, but when I opened it, a folded piece of paper fell out. It was a letter. To me. He never dated it. It wasn't signed. Just, if you ever find this, it's because I didn't know how to say it to your face. He wrote about how proud he was of me for going my own way, even when it meant disappointing him. About how sorry he was for not being emotionally present when I needed him most, especially after Mom left. He admitted he didn't know how to raise a daughter, and that he was scared I'd grow up hating him. But most of all, he wrote that he hoped I would forgive him for the days he wasn't the dad I deserved. I didn't even know I needed to forgive him until I read that. I sat on the floor of my apartment sobbing for an hour, hugging this dusty paperback like it was the last piece of him I'd ever get. Maybe it is. I didn't know where else to put this, so here it is. I miss you, Dad. Stories number 25. AITA for calling another mom horrible and saying that parents don't get preferences. I, 27F, have a son, 112M. Me and my husband, 30M, were at the park with him the other day watching him play on the playground. Another mom was there who seemed maybe in her mid-30s with 2 children, a girl who seemed around 7 years old and a boy who was 3. We were watching our kids play when I greeted the other mother and struck up a conversation with her. She asked my son's age and I said he was almost 2. I mentioned that while I loved having infants, I was not a newborn person, and was very happy to have my son be at the age finally where we could color, go to the park, and do all the fun, kid things, together. She agreed. I told her that it must be nice having the best of both worlds, with having a daughter and a son. That was when she said something that made me feel weird about her. She said that if she could, she would have 10 more of her son. She said she enjoyed being a mother to a boy much more because she didn't have to deal with all that emotional stuff and that girls were just so whiny. This was within earshot of her own daughter. She turned to me as if she expected, because I have a son rather than a daughter, I would agree. I was really put off by this comment. I told her that I had a niece who I really loved being around. That girls were a blessing to have. In fact, I hope that I will have the privilege of having a daughter someday. I also mentioned that while my son may be a boy, he is a very emotional child, which is true. He struggles with emotional regulation and we are in OT to address this, lots of tears and tantrums. So even while I have a boy, I still need to be an emotionally present mother and teach him to identify and talk through his big feelings. He still needs snuggles, reassurance, and gentleness even though he is a boy. She seemed slightly put off by this and said, I guess all kids are different. I walked away after that and ignored that mother. I was still fuming over what she'd said and soon after, she left the park with her kids. When I recounted the conversation to my husband, he rolled his eyes and said that people are allowed to have preferences. He seemed to think I overreacted to her comments, and shamed her needlessly. I countered that no, parents don't get to have preferences with gender. I pointed out that while I hope to one day have a girl, if that doesn't happen, I would never lament not having a girl in front of my sons. I asked him how he'd feel if I said that I prefer daughters in front of our son when he's old enough to understand, and my husband shrugged and said that would be my preference. And that she has experience raising a girl, so maybe to her it was harder having a girl. I told him that it's wrong. That it was misogynistic and horrible, and that her daughter would internalize her comments. I said that was not a way to raise a healthy, confident child, and he said that I was, once again, overreacting. I was angry at him, but I dropped it after we got home. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Are parents allowed to express having a preference as far as gender goes, or is it wrong to say you prefer one gender over another? Stories number 26. AITA for refusing to compromise on food rules I have for myself when cooking for 2 people. I have eaten mostly vegetarian for years with the exception of a few days a month, when I'm menstruating, and on those days, I eat meat. It's kind of a stupid thing and probably has no real benefit, but it's how I've fed myself since I started needing to, and it's become an important part of my routine. My boyfriend, on the other hand, loves meat and has it with almost every meal. I love cooking and make most of the meals we have together. Recently, he has been hinting that if he's eating with me more often, I should eat meat with him. I made steak a few weeks ago and then his birthday happened when he asked for the same thing. He got quiet and distant after I made myself something vegetarian and said it would have been nicer if I had eaten the same thing as him. This all came to a boiling point last night when he brought chicken for me to cook for him. I told him I was happy for him to eat it himself, but if I wasn't eating it, I wasn't cooking it as I had already made a perfectly good meal. He doesn't treat me as a housewife or expect me to cook for him daily, but he doesn't understand why I wouldn't do this for him, since I was already cooking. I explained that I wasn't doing it specifically because I was already cooking and that I was offended that he didn't believe that the meal I made was good enough on its own. He got frustrated and later when talking to his friends, he mentioned it as a joke and they sided with him. I doubled down when I overheard this and he said that I should compromise if I'm making meals for both of us, and consider his tastes when deciding what to have. Am I the asshole? Stories number 27. AITA for being offended over not being included in my family's matching "I love you" tattoo. Since my dad left, my mom, sister, and I have been tight. There for each other, you know. Some days ago my mom and sister came home spontaneously with matching "I love you 3000" tattoos. I asked them why I hadn't been invited or included and my mom snapped at me saying, "They're inspired by that dumb Marvel movie your sister likes, you wouldn't have wanted one." Hello. I love Marvel and have been collecting comics and memorabilia for years. It's what she gets me for my birthday and Christmas every year. I would have loved to participate, and that's what I told her. Then she changed her answer saying, "Not everything has to be equal and that's life, sometimes you just don't get included in family things. There's this concert this weekend we're supposed to go to, however I'm planning on staying home, much to their anger. They're telling me I'm overreacting, however I just don't feel like going out with them right now. I don't know how to feel. I don't want to overreact. It is just a tattoo, but I feel bad being left out, especially since we've talked about matching tats for years." Stories number 28. AITA for kicking my boyfriend out at 2 a.m. because of a comment he made about my mom. Okay, so this happened 2 nights ago and I still feel like I'm losing my mind a little. I, 26F, have been with my boyfriend, Caleb, 27M, for about 8 months. Things have been going well mostly. He's funny, smart, whatever. He just moved in last month, which maybe was too soon in hindsight, but that's not even the point right now. So my mom, 48F, has been staying with me for a few days. She was visiting from out of state and her Airbnb canceled last minute, so I told her just stay with us. She's super chill, like genuinely doesn't get in the way. Spends most the day with her friend group, only comes back late at night and watches Netflix with me for like 30 minutes before going to bed. Anyway, 2 nights ago, we were all just chilling, watching some movie, and at some point my mom got up and went to bed. No big deal. Then out of nowhere Caleb turns to me and goes, "Your mom totally wants me." I was like, huh. He laughed and goes, "I mean, did you see the way she looked at me when she came out of the shower earlier? She was wearing an oversized tee and shorts and literally just walked past us to get her phone charger." I was already uncomfortable, but I thought maybe he was just being dumb, so I said something like, "That's weird, don't say that." But then he keeps going. He's like, "I swear she was flirting with me at dinner too," and starts imitating her voice like, "Oh Caleb, you're so funny, you should teach me how to cook sometime." And I just sat there stunned because first of all, second of all, my mom was just being nice like she is to everyone. So I told him flat out that he was being disgusting and disrespectful and he needed to stop. He said I was overreacting and that it was just a joke, but like, that's not a joke. That's weird as hell. So I said, "You know what? Just get out. Go stay at your brother's or something." He thought I was bluffing, but I stood up and literally started grabbing his stuff and putting it by the door. He finally left, but not before telling me I was acting psycho and had major daddy issues, which came completely out of left field. Since then he's texted me a few times saying I need to chill and that he was just messing around and I blew it out of proportion. My best friend says she gets why I was upset but thinks I shouldn't have kicked him out so late and that I probably embarrassed him. My mom doesn't know anything happened, she was already asleep, and I don't want to tell her because I know she'll feel gross about it. But like, I don't know. It wasn't just the comment. It was the way he doubled down and made it a whole joke at my mom's expense. I've never seen that side of him and it gave me the biggest ick I've ever felt in my life. So yeah, AITA for kicking him out in the middle of the night over a joke. Stories number 29. AITA for being upset that my wife broke our bed because of her weight. My 32M wife, 30F, and I have been married for 4 years, together for 7. When we met, she was very active and healthy. She used to run races, meal prep, and was generally full of energy. I admired her for her discipline and drive. Over the last couple of years, after her father died, she has completely changed her lifestyle. She eats fast food almost daily, sometimes more than once a day. When I suggest we cook at home or maybe try to eat healthier together, she laughs it off or says she is too tired. I have never pressured her or called her names. I have only tried to suggest healthier options and support her without being judgmental. As a result, she has gained a lot of weight. She also complains constantly about back pain, knee pain, and feeling exhausted. I have offered to meal prep with her, take walks together, even start fun challenges to get motivated. Every time, she either ignores it or accuses me of being shallow. Last week, something happened that I feel made it impossible to ignore anymore. We were in bed watching TV and when she shifted her weight to get up, the bed frame cracked loudly and one of the support beams completely snapped. The bed basically collapsed under us. She was embarrassed but tried to laugh it off, blaming it on the bed being old. The thing is, the bed was barely 2 years old and had a weight limit we were nowhere near exceeding when we first bought it. It was a sturdy bed. I did not say anything in the moment because I knew she was humiliated. I helped her up and we slept on the mattress on the floor that night. The next day, I suggested again that maybe it was time we started focusing on being healthier, for both our sakes. She immediately blew up at me, accusing me of fat shaming and being cruel. She said the bed breaking had nothing to do with her and that I was just looking for an excuse to make her feel bad. Now she will barely speak to me. She even told her friends I body shamed her because the bed broke, and they have been messaging me calling me an asshole. For the record, I love my wife. I want her to be healthy and happy. But it feels like I am being forced to ignore a very real problem just to spare her feelings. Stories number 30. My stepbrother has been grooming touching my sister for 7 years and I am the one that has to tell our dad. I'll keep it short because I, 26M, really don't even know how to possess this, but here it goes. My stepbrother Tom, 22, has been touching and grooming my sister, Jenny, 18, for 7 years. My younger bio brother, Sam, 25, woke me up last night around 2 a.m. and told me to go to the kitchen where our sister was sitting. He told Jenny to tell me everything. Apparently, Tom is a disgusting human and has done things I couldn't even imagine happening under my roof for years. The tricky thing is Tom is on the spectrum, high functioning, so I don't know how I should handle this. He also doesn't come around much because he lives in a different state. But I do have a very long text from him to my sister with all the evidence that he has done things to my sister. The part that is really scaring me is telling my dad this afternoon when he gets home from work. He's a combat vet with 30 years of service and has severe PTSD from Iraq and Afghanistan. He has known something has been wrong with my sister for years but could put his finger on it. He told me if he ever found out if someone ever did what Tom has done to my sister, they would be dead with no questions asked. And I know he is not bluffing. So I've already hidden all the guns in the house from him. I'm not sure what's going to happen between him and my stepmom, who is one of the greatest people I have ever met. I'm not sure how she's going to react either because she is away on a business trip and Tom is her only child. The other reason why this needs to be done today is because my bio mother knows bits to this story because my sister's friend shared some information on accident. The problem WTH my bio mother knowing is because she's a malignant narcissist and anytime she gets a chance to give my dad hell, she does. What's different about this is she recorded this conversation with my sister and her friend and has been sitting on it for 3 weeks and hasn't said a word. Which leads me to believe she is going to blackmail my dad and stepmom. My sister is okay with me telling our dad. I told her to be out of sit for a bit to let dad cool down. So Sam and I are the ones that are going to giving our dad this information. Not really sure what to do in this situation or what should happen with Tom, but AITA for dropping a nuclear bomb on our family. Stories number 31. AITA, 25M, for wanting to break up with my 26F girlfriend for pulling a pregnancy prank on me. I'm 25M, in an LDR with my girlfriend, 26F, for a year now. Today, I was in the shower with her on FaceTime and she started talking about her belly and that there's a baby in it. I thought she was joking for the first 20 minutes, and I asked her to stop joking about that 6 to 7 times and she didn't, so I hung up the phone. She calls me back 5 minutes later and I answered. She said in all seriousness, just take a few deep breaths and look at the photo I just sent you. I looked and it was an ultrasound of a 2 weeks pregnancy. She even typed her name on the bottom right. I didn't believe her still, but she made up a whole story about how her last period was just spotting and she went to a doctor 4 weeks ago but was comprehending it herself before telling me. She continued this for another hour and was saying how she wanted to have the baby and I told her I can't have a kid. But she just kept this weird evil smile on her face and said she can't kill a living thing. Telling me to go look again and asked, how are you going to kill that? I was literally in shock in a realization that I'm going to have a kid in this world and I won't be there to father it. That really put me in a different mental or emotional state. Then she finally hinted that she's not actually pregnant and started laughing. I hung up the phone. Haven't talked to her in a couple hours. Actually thinking about ending things with here because 1, that's a messed up prank. 2, while thinking that I'm going to have a kid, I realized that her and I have nothing in common and the thought of raising a kid with her and being with her forever didn't really excite me. Like I wouldn't be able to go fishing with her and my kid because she doesn't like fishing. Or anything really out in nature. Something I really want to do with my kid. I would really like to do that stuff with my wife as well. AITA, update, I broke up with her. A lot of people here are calling her a cruel person and horrible names, but people make mistakes. It's not really the prank that made me break up with her. It's not the end of the world. But it was messed up and it got me thinking in a serious way, envisioning my life with her and our child. Of course things would be different if we had kids in 5 to 10 years, but just the feeling and how I pictured us as a team wouldn't be what I want for my child. Nor would I see it as fun, but I saw it as something stressful and unenjoyable. Stories number 32. AITA for wanting to give my 5-year-old consequences. So, I am totally willing to accept AITA here. My son is actually 4, almost 5. My wife is a big believer in no punishment, natural consequences, etc. Recently, especially at night, he doesn't nap so he's tired in the evening, he tends to be a real asshole. I know it sounds harsh but there's just no other way to put it. He gets mad over nothing, throws stuff at us, screams over anything etc. Note that when it comes to my son I do most of the playing and working with him, so maybe I'm a bit more burnt out with his constant anger. We have a 6-month-old daughter and my wife does most of the work with her so neither child is ignored by either of us. So yesterday he was kicking up a massive fuss over bedtime. He started throwing toys at me, screaming at us, crying, etc. He finally said, "Daddy, I don't love you anymore, I only love mommy." I know he's 4.5 but it hurt a bit regardless. So I said, "Okay, then I don't want to be here." I feel like he should have some consequence for it. He doesn't face consequences for anything at this point. She's into gentle parenting. We usually play a bit before school in the morning, but this morning I told him I don't want to play with him because he was mean to me and my wife flipped out. I think he's at the age where he should start feeling some consequences for his action. My wife keeps saying he'll grow to learn that certain things are bad. I don't think he'll learn if he's not guided. For example, she never wanted him to feel like he has to share, so now he doesn't share at all. Anyway, I'm being told IATA for not immediately letting this stuff go. Thoughts? Stories number 33. I, 29F, am not sure if I can tolerate my boyfriend, 39M, of 4 years' political views. I have been struggling for the past couple months, since our new president, with my boyfriend's political views. We met right after the 2020 election, so politics was never really a conversation that ever came up. With the new election that happened end of 2024, it has really made me doubt if he is the one for me or not. My boyfriend is an amazing boyfriend, and he genuinely would be the best husband and father. I see the way he cares for things that I love, my friends, family, dog, and the way he cares for me as well. He is so patient, sweet, thoughtful, and supports me. I constantly dreamt of our future together and I felt that we would be together forever. I know he voted for our current president in the 2020 and 2024 election. His reasoning is purely economical taxes policies. He is 100% supportive of women's rights, LGBTQ+ rights, etc., so we are obviously aligned there. He says he has voted blue before blah blah blah, and I understand people can have disagreements about politics, for example economic policies, but I still can't comprehend that he voted the way he did and can also say, "Oh, but I'm an ally." I am a POC, I have many friends who are POC gay, belong to marginalized groups. I try to be understanding that everyone was raised different, and as a white man he may not understand the struggles I've gone through to vote the way I vote. It's very difficult for me to process these feelings, because on one hand he is an amazing partner and I know he loves me and would be the best husband-father. On the other hand though, it makes me feel like we are morally not aligned, and our values and what it's important to us may not be aligned. I'm just struggling to understand if this can be something I can get past, and would appreciate any advice. Are opposing political views something that can make or break your relationship? Thank you. Stories number 34. AITA for not leaving my planters or landscaping my lawn when I move. So I'm moving soon. I bought a house and I can't wait. Recently the people who bought my current house stopped over, which I always thought was a no-no unless you are selling to people who you actually know. Which is not the case. The reason for their visit was because they want me to leave my lawn decorations including my planters, and they also want me to landscape the lawn for them. They said they saw pictures of the lawn last year and that was one of the selling points. And they want me to do this at no extra cost to them. I told them no, that the planters were very expensive and the cost to buy the plants and do the work was more than I wanted to take on when I have a new lawn that I need to take care of. They said that they may need to back out of the sale if that's the case. Here's the thing. I know a few things about real estate. My mother and her husband work in real estate and so I have picked up on a few things. Both houses are under contract and if they were to try and pull out of the sale then I can exercise a no cancellation clause. I could either sue them or force the sale of the house on them. I told them this as well. I also told them it's a small lawn and between the two of them it wouldn't take long to do and they can add their own touches. They called me an asshole. And one of my neighbors told me I should just do it to leave the house on a good note. I told them I'm already leaving on a good note because I'm scrubbing all the rugs, washing the windows and painting and fixing holes aside from just the general deep cleaning. So AITA for not leaving my planters and landscaping when I move. Stories number 35. I contacted the wife of the man my wife has been cheating on me with, and told her husband is cheating on her with my wife. My wife is mad at me for telling her, AITA. Long story short, I caught my wife 3 days ago sexting another man. Our 13 years of marriage has been on the rocks before I found out. She was remorseful about it until I talked to the wife. I did some digging about this guy and found out he was married. I found her phone number, and talked to her to tell her what happened and where to find the messages. Well, the guy and my wife worked together and he told my wife I told his wife. She is now disgusted with me and I had no right to tell her. AITA. Update, I really appreciate the support, advice, and validation from this community. The question seems stupid because I've been gaslit and manipulated, and I really needed that Reddit reality check. There's so many replies, I can't find the people whose advice I took to heart and used. But to the people who mentioned Darvo, I appreciate you. Same with the people who said I wasn't obligated to keep a cheater's secret, and that I gave that wife what she never gave me, the ability to make an informed decision on the state of her marriage with all the facts. Her response was alarming and I see that now. To the people who said to kick her out. I can't do that, we both own this home, she's entitled to live here by law. I'm trying to keep things civil and clean for the kids. As much as I want to burn this house to the ground, I have to do what's best for the kids and myself right now. I went no contact with her after I made this post. Just completely ignored her. It was her turn to watch the kids tonight so it was easy to spend time with a friend and clear my head. She eventually texted me, my preferred method of communicating messy things, apologizing for how things went down, but then she tried to justify her cheating, saying she wanted a divorce when she did it and told me so. Not true. She led me on saying maybe we can fix things and I showed her the texts to prove it. I then referred to the Darvo wiki and told her, you don't believe what you did is cheating is incredibly narcissistic and you're victim blaming me. You're highlighting your suffering to appear as the victim and escape blame. To which she denied trying to be the victim and said she wasn't blaming me, but didn't deny trying to escape blame. I told her she led me to believe our 13-year relationship was salvageable, but then cheated on me when she made up her mind and didn't tell me. She told me that was fair, apologized, and now we're sleeping in separate rooms. Maybe I'll post another update. Again. Thank you for the reality check. Love makes you blind sometimes. FYI, if anyone else reading this in the future is suffering, make a list of all the things you're thankful for. It really helped my mood. Stories number 36. I love being a girl, it's so whimsical and creative. Being girly is honestly so much fun. Ignoring the structural male privilege and misogyny. I just mean the everyday, light-hearted things. We get to wear such cute outfits, do fun makeup, get different hairstyles, hair colors, get spray tans, we get to accessorize things, we get perfumes, lotions, skincare with the best scents, we have seasonal traditions like doing lil decors or pyjamas for Christmas, we decorate our spaces with the cutest things, we collect cute trinkets, female friendships are a hit, we have so many creative outlets. There are just so many options for everything, and everything aimed toward us is just so pretty and cutesy. I love it. I know men can do all the cute stuff, but their options are just so boring. I swear I could fall asleep every time I shop with my boyfriend. I asked him before if he wishes he could have more cute things and he said no and thought it was hilarious that I would ask, but he just doesn't get it. Like right now I'm getting gel nails with cats on them because I'm going to a cat cafe with my girlfriends. How fun is that? Being a woman is so cutesy and whimsical, I love that for us. Edit. This was just a casual post about how I think girly things are cute and fun and how limited options are for men. Of course I understand womanhood doesn't resume itself in nails and spray tans, nor am I saying every woman should enjoy these things, or that men can't enjoy it. And of course, I have a full life outside of girly stuff. I have a family, a career, hobbies, and friends. I'm an adult, I work hard and I pay my own bills. But it's wild that I even have to point all that out just so people don't assume the worst about me simply for enjoying girly things. Almost like anything related to femininity is still seen as negative or superficial. Anyway, wishing you all the best, and I hope everyone gets to enjoy the cute things in life whatever they are for you and regardless of gender. Stories number 37. He, 30M, finally realized I, 29F, was telling the truth, and broke down. We desperately want to fix this. How? A few days ago my partner of 4 years abruptly accused me of lying about my past, out of pocket, and then accused me of creating an intricate web of lies, possibility of me sleeping with my best friend, shamed me and broke up with me. I took down the post because you guys were right and solved the mystery. This was extremely out of pocket and out of character, and I was left crying back at my parents being aggressively consoled and completely scared he was having some sort of mental freakish breakdown. Yesterday, I'm packing my things and somehow we got conversing, and of course as you know with circles in conversation, the topic was brought up. But we were calm and communicative and we both basically were sad about everything. You Redditors were right. Someone planted a seed in his head at a concert a week ago that completely messed up my past timeline and he thought I was making a crazy web of lies. You know who you are. Go feck yourself and stay out of my relationship and focus on your own, and wh'ing myself out, like tossed salad. And the stress of moving hit a melting point. It only took me one question to say, do you remember when we were at this event 12 years ago, and I just recently broken up with X? I need to add we've known each other since we were kids, so we grew up around each other. He goes, of course I do. So, would you say this would align with X, Y, Z? Then his eyes began to widen and water and he completely broke down and said, I just fucked everything up. Honestly, I did console him because I know what it's like to firmly believe something until you realized you were lied to by someone dear to you. To say I'm angry at this friend of his is an understatement. We cried together and realized that there was some weird sick sabotage going on. I have never treated his friends poorly, so I don't know if his buddy wanted him to go full manosphere and be spotty with someone's past. Some people never grow up. Now we're at a point where we've been communicating how we both are going to have individual counseling. I'll be moving back to my rents for the sake of peace, and we'll be beginning to make plans about doing healthy dates like hitting the gym again together to hit our fitness goals, working on our communication styles, and I'm going to cut down on bad vices. He's going to take a stress leave off of work and go see a cardiologist for something he found out last week, thank goodness. Is there anything else that can be added to help us? This is a very stressful point in our lives and I firmly believe that this isn't him. He said he's going to admit to his brother that he believed something that wasn't true and I'm not a bad person and we agreed that people need to keep their nose out of our relationship because it's none of their business. Edit. First of all, thank you guys for giving the hard truth about me not respecting myself more. I've had pretty bad self-esteem issues from my past, and it's time I work hard on it to love myself more and be more assertive. If anything, I am excited to be close back with my family. I've got a crazy amazing grandmother and father, and we all get along like peas in a pod. It feels weird moving back in at 30 but honestly, it's the best place I can be. It feels reassuring to know that, I know, as long as history has begun, that people have shared their experiences of others willingly try to destroy people's relationships and using the closeness of friendship and years as friends is a heavy influence, leverage of power of beliefs. I am not excusing the behavior. I am still very hurt, and he knows that he's going to have to put in the work now. One will be him admitting he was wrong to everyone and they apologize to me personally. I have laid down very specific requests to be done if there's a sliver of us recovering from this. At this point I think I've gathered the information I need from you guys, and I'm being humbled so I'm going to stop responding. My information is given in the commentary. I'll give an update in 3 months. How do you set one of those remind me bots again? I see it in some posts. Let me know. Stories number 38. My husband refuses to change our baby's diapers. My husband, 23M, and I, 22F, have a beautiful 8-week-old daughter. He seemed somewhat excited to be a dad throughout my pregnancy, but I feel like maybe he wasn't as excited as I hoped. We had a miscarriage in November of 2023 and he seemed more excited during that pregnancy than he did this time. Throughout the pregnancy he would say he is excited but that he doesn't want to change diapers because it's gross. I had a talk with him about how I understand why it can be intimidating because he is a man and she is a baby girl and she has different parts than he does and it can feel intimidating to clean those parts correctly because he has never changed a diaper before. I reassured him that I would be here to help and show him what to do. He even practiced putting a diaper on a stuffed teddy bear before I had the baby. I thought he would get over it after I had the baby, but he did not. He refuses to even be in the room while I change her. Every time I bring it up and ask, so when do you want to start changing her diaper? He just says, we're doing this again. I do not regret having my baby. I have always wanted a baby and was definitely ready, but I feel like he was not ready. Am I overreacting? How can I talk with him about this? Edit to add, I asked him what is so gross about changing diapers and he said, everything. The different parts, and then kinda trailed off like there was more to that sentence than what was said. He said that she is never away from me, so why should he have to do it? He said, why would I take her from you to change her and then bring her back when you could just do it? And I said, because you're her dad. What if something happened to me? Or what if I had to leave her with you for an hour or two? And he said at that point he would look it up on YouTube and wouldn't leave her sitting in a soiled diaper. Update. So I read all 416 comments on the previous post. You all collectively agreed that I was not overreacting, that my husband is a shitty father and husband, that I married a loser, and that I should leave if he doesn't change his ways. So after he got home from work last night the baby needed to be changed, so I asked him to come into the other room and simply observe while I changed the diaper, and he agreed. I said he could observe a few diaper changes and then when it was just a plain pee diaper I would let him know that it's his turn, and he once again argued about not wanting to change diapers. I told him that he will eventually have to suck it up because he is a parent now, and if he didn't want to be a parent he shouldn't have agreed to become one. He said he didn't want to be a dad as bad as I wanted him to be, and that he only got me pregnant because I wanted to be a mom so bad. I reminded him that he was the one who got the conversation about kids started several years ago when he said he wouldn't mind having a kid. He said yeah, I wouldn't mind, and then I cut him off and said but you only want the fun parts and not any of the gross non-fun parts. I told him that I'm on the verge of being burnt out and that I feel like a married single mom. He said I was bashing him and I said I wasn't bashing, but simply pointing out the obvious, and then I left the room because the baby was crying to be fed. He joined me in the other room a few minutes later to apologize, and restated that he just doesn't want to change diapers. I asked him what the issue is with changing diapers and he said he feels like a man shouldn't change little girls' diapers. He is afraid people will see him as a pedophile. I told him nobody will see him as a pedophile because that is his child. It would be different if he volunteered to change a little girl that wasn't his child. I told him that he should start sooner rather than later because the diapers won't get any easier, they will only become nastier. In the end he agreed to observe a few diaper changes to learn what to do, and then start with pee diapers and maybe eventually change poopy diapers. He seems to have a serious issue with the poop part, but I told him we could get some rubber gloves and some masks and put peppermint oil on the mask so he won't have to smell it. One of you recommended the peppermint oil on the mask, good idea by the way. I will be asking him to join me for every diaper change between the time he gets home from work and the time we go to bed. Since I am a som and he works, I will not ask him to get up during the night unless he just wants to. I know most, of you will probably not like that, but for now that is what we will do until he gets comfortable with daytime diaper changes. In a few days, on a night where he doesn't have to work the next day, I will ask him to get up and join us for the midnight diaper changes. I hope he will change and become a more active parent in our baby's life. To all of you who said I should leave because being a single mom is better than being a married single mom, I would rather be a married single mom who doesn't have to leave my baby with a stranger and go to work. At least this way he goes to work and makes money and I get to stay home with my baby. I will keep pushing him and working on him to make him a more active parent. I know we are too young to be having children, but I felt like I was more than ready. My oldest sister is special needs to the highest degree and has to wear diapers. So all my life I have been changing diapers. I have helped several family members with their babies from newborn to age 2 to 3, so I have helped raise several babies, around 6 babies, so I knew being a mom was all I've ever wanted. I was just waiting for him to be ready, and I thought he was, but I guess not. Thank you for reading this update and the original post. I appreciate all advice and help. I apologize for my sideshow of a life LOL. Stories number 39. AITA for refusing someone a drink in the hospital. I was in the emergency ward a few months ago because a car hit me while I was cycling home. They were at fault and brought me to the hospital in case of hidden injuries because I made quite the tumble, and my neck hurt really bad. After all the scans, we were waiting for the results, and there was this other guy in a similar situation. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he was also waiting for the results to come back. He started to feel dizzy, and with no one accompanying him, he asked for my mother if she could get him a cola. Now, when at the emergency ward, this hospital asks to not drink or eat anything before you are cleared to do so. I told my mom to get the nurse instead. The nurses were taking way too long, and the guy kept begging for a cola. He really was looking pale, too. I was torn between getting it for him and the fear of doing wrong by him. But I kept a stance with my initial opinion. Especially because it was very hard for the guy to say why exactly he needed the cola so badly. Two other guys wanted to give him a sip of their Red Bull, and I said that was even worse. The guy asked for something to eat instead because he had not eaten yet either. We already rang the alarm bell that this was an emergency because he was slowly starting to pass out, and eventually, the nurses came. But everyone was mad at me because the nurses gave him cola because he was diabetic. My mother's argument is that he knows his body best and is not asking for cola for no reason. My argument was that he was in the hospital for something we did not know, and I did not want to end up giving him something that could speed up something bad. Why else would there be signs to not eat or drink before you are told by a nurse that you are allowed? I still feel bad and like I was the cause for the guy to get near to passing out, possibly worse. I denied this guy multiple drinks and a snack to only find out it would have been fine in the end. Was I the asshole? Edit. The guy did not have any indication on him that he was diabetic and did not say it. My mom did say he might be by the time he nearly passed out, and people started to take more action. The hospital is and has been for a while quite understaffed. Where I am from, there is a high need for more nurses, especially for the emergency room. Stories number 40. Guest didn't like my name. One time, a guest came into the resort I worked at, and I don't remember exactly what his issue was, but he was quite upset. He was yelling at me and demanding to speak to a manager. You know how it goes, anybody in this industry has experienced it. I stayed calm and told him the manager wouldn't be back until the next day. I offered to take his contact information so she could follow up with him. I repeated that more than once, because he seemed convinced if he yelled enough, someone would magically appear to fix whatever had gone wrong. But eventually, I think he realized he wasn't going to get anywhere with me and that he'd have to wait if he wanted an actual resolution. Then he asked for my name. I told him. I won't say it here, but it's uncommon. I'm named after a car, if that gives you an idea. He paused. What? I repeated it. Is that your real name? I said yes and kind of laughed. People comment on my name a lot, so I'm used to it. Really? Yes. I thought maybe he thought I was lying or trying to be funny. For the first time in this entire interaction, he stopped yelling. He just stared at me. Completely calm now, he said, that's a really weird name. Then he turned around and walked out. Never saw him again. Before I worked at the resort, I worked front desk at a sketchy motel. I loved it honestly, but that job came with its own set of challenges, mostly dealing with unstable or high individuals. People were still rude at the motel, but resort guests are a completely different breed. They were pettier, and the attitudes more aggressive. They make sure you feel their disappointment in full force. I remember one guest screaming red in the face at me and my coworker, both of us still teenagers at the time, calling us stupid, because we had run out of beach chairs for rent. It wasn't our fault, and it wasn't a major problem because the store across the street rented them out as well for even cheaper, but you'd think we had ruined his entire vacation. Stuff like that happened all the time. It never hurt my feelings or anything, I just found it shocking how mean they could get. Someone being frustrated and raising their voice at me isn't okay, but I understand that sometimes people are just upset with the situation. Getting all personal, though, that's just unnecessary. I haven't worked in hospitality in years, but there were so many moments like this one that I just look back on sometimes and have to laugh. Stories number 41. Being sued by CarMax for a car I paid for in full 2 years ago. Consumer law. Location, Florida. My father purchased a car for me in my name on October 2023 from CarMax. It was paid in full for $22,000 in the form of a cashier's check. Today my boyfriend and I received a knock at our door from what appeared to be a process server with a lawsuit summons requesting us to sign documentation, telling us that I was being sued for the purchase price of $22,000 by CarMax. My father immediately went to the same CarMax location to discuss this, and it was shared that the check was rejected by Wells Fargo. My father then went to Wells Fargo to check on the status of the check, and they confirmed that there had never been an attempt to cash the check, and the check was still active and available to be cashed by CarMax. In the lawsuit, there was a letter from a third party on behalf of CarMax dated in September 2024, claiming that I did not pay the $22,000. They were requesting proof of identification of payment which I gladly would have provided, but I never received this letter, as the letter was not addressed to my apartment number. Additionally, the lawsuit claims that they do not have either my email or phone number to contact me regarding this claim, but on October 2024, CarMax sent a 1-year anniversary to my email congratulating me on my car purchase. It appears that CarMax lost the check 2 years ago, either by clerical mistake as the paperwork was in my name, and the cashier's check was in my dad's name, or on their own accord. Additionally, I never signed the summons documents as I was unsure if they were legitimate at the time, but as I have now looked online and realized the lawsuit is legitimate, I would like to receive counsel on whether I should sign the documents from the court official who showed up at my door, with proof of a bill of sale showing that I owe $0, and a copy of a still 2-year-old active cashier's check, what options do I have if they just lost the check? Stories number 42. AIO for breaking down at my daughter's school after they displayed her art project, dedicated to my real mom, when I'm just the stepmom. I'm sitting in my car crying my heart out while typing this. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, 36M, for 3 years. He has a daughter Lily, 9, whose biological mom left when she was 2 and hasn't contacted them since. I've been in Lily's life since she was 5 and I've tried so hard to be a good mom figure to her. Today was the school's art exhibition. Lily had been working on a secret project for weeks. When we arrived, we found her artwork, a beautiful hand-painted ceramic heart with flowers. The placard read, "Heart for Mom, by Lily. I made this for my real mom who I miss every day even though I don't remember her. I hope she sees it from heaven." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I was devastated and I really mean it. Her mom isn't dead, she's living in another state. I completely lost it and had to rush out of the gymnasium before sobbing in front of everyone. The art teacher explained that Lily initially made the heart for me, but changed the dedication after talking with a friend who lost her mom. Lily told the teacher she didn't want to hurt her friend's feelings. I understand she's just a child, but this hurts so much. I recently finally paid off my credit card balance, which was a pretty big amount, and was feeling good about life, but this emotional setback feels so much worse than any financial struggle. 3 years of being there for every moment and I'm still not real enough. Am I really overreacting? Or is it okay that I feel heartbroken? Stories number 43. As a man, I hate this hivemind-like brotherhood we have. Today I went to a friend of my father's ranch. This guy is filthy rich, his ranch is bigger than my entire neighborhood and straight up has an artificial beach on it. A bunch of friends and employees went to discuss business and such. He wants some of my expertise on a project they're working on and I went there to do that. We couldn't discuss shit. This all-boys meetup went downhill really fast as they started acting like a bunch of horny teenagers. They're all at least in their late 40s. I probably spent like an work day there just finding something to amuse me as they kept talking about their sex life and how they contract prostitutes and hate their wives or something. I really did dose off a few hours in. At one point this dude started showing his gun, which our country's forbids, and was clearly showing those itchy fingers to fire it, until he actually unloaded the magazine upwards just because why not? It seemed that no other guy was bothered by it, I'd say the opposite even. They were all acting like kids and encouraging each other to act like that. I've never missed my wife so much, not in a lovingly way, just her presence as a normal person doing normal things. Stories number 44. I often hear men say, women from our mother's generations were the last good generations of women, but I hardly, actually never hear a woman say, men from our father's generation were the last generation of good men. I hear this very often. Men have this romanticized version of what their mother's generation of women were. They used to feed them, were loyal, never raised their voice or was promiscuous. They use this to shame women. They would say, our mother's generation was the last generation of good women, the women in this generation are hoes and cheating whores blah blah. Like why do men romanticize the past so much? Why do they want their mother's generation of women back? On the other hand, I hardly see a girl saying our father's generation men were the last good men or romanticize men from those generations like men do. The closest I think I hear is like, men used to go to wars and now they do podcasts. Men used to build houses and now they do this and that. But that doesn't imply that women are saying the men from their father's generation were like saints or they want those men back. Stories number 45. My wife wants a divorce. It's been 3 weeks since my wife told me she wants a divorce. I'm still reeling from it. I know I'm going to come across badly here. I stepped outside of my marriage and it is no one else's fault but mine. I have no excuse for cheating on my wife. I work in the Crown Attorney's office. It's a busy and stressful job and I crossed the line with another attorney. The long hours and the stressful environment is something we both deal with and I let my judgment lapse. She's married with children too and neither of us have any excuse. I make no excuses for what I did. I watched my brother go through a divorce a few years ago but I never thought I'd be here. I regret hurting my wife and I don't blame her for leaving. 3 weeks ago she told me she knew about the affair. The next day she moved out. She had started doing Instacart and Uber Eats when I was at work. She saved up money. She's been taking free online classes through the Adult Education Center. She wants to start night school to get a degree. She went out and got a job. After she got the job she found an apartment. We have an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old. After she got the job she found a daycare for them. Truth be told I was blindsided when she told me she was leaving. I don't know how she found out about the affair but apparently she's known for almost a year. I had no idea she knew or that she was getting things in order to leave me. She didn't act any different. She was still the same warm and bright person. She didn't change her behavior. She didn't act distant or cold. She was the same loving wife that she always was. I know I made a huge mistake with the affair. My wife didn't tell anyone else about my affair either. She only told people after she moved out. After my wife got a job, she told her sister she was leaving me, but not why. Her sister co-signed for my wife's apartment. But even then she didn't tell her sister any details until after she moved out. My wife said she kept everything to herself because she didn't want anyone to confront me or talk to me about until she had everything in order to leave. Even her sister only found out less than a month before my wife moved out, and even then it was only that my wife was leaving me and not why. I saw her sister a couple of times before my wife left, but just like my wife, she didn't give anything away. I'm still in shock that my wife didn't act any different or give away what she was doing. I never knew my wife could get a job or was taking online classes or planning to leave. My wife told my colleague's husband about the affair. I never really thought about what would happen if we were caught. I guess I thought my wife and I would try marriage counseling. I needed to get this out. I've already had enough of my life made public. I know I only have myself to blame. My wife will only talk to me about our kids. We have agreed to share time with them for now. Shared 50-50 custody is the norm where we live, and my wife says she won't contest that in the divorce. But she'll only talk to me about the kids, not about anything else. The house feels empty without her. It's strange and wrong. I know I was wrong and I made the worst mistake of my life. I watched my brother go through a divorce and I never thought I would too. It still feels strange to me. My wife had been living somewhere else for 3 weeks. My wife has had a job for 3 weeks. I'm going to be divorced. Everyone is angry at me for the affair and I don't even blame them. You don't have to tell me I'm wrong because I already know. This is the biggest regret of my life. Stories number 46. AITA for not allowing visitors in my home while I'm not around. My husband and I recently moved our family to a new home. Literally 3 days ago, boxes everywhere, nothing in order. During the transition I needed some time to myself to clean the old place. My mom offered to babysit my baby at our new home while I was away. No issues with that. However, halfway through the day, I called to check on my baby and mom and hear other children screaming in the background. Confused, my mother then tells me my niece and nephew came over to see me but then discovered I wasn't home. So instead of leaving, they let themselves in for the rest of the day, several hours, without anyone that actually lives at that home present. When I communicated that my husband and I are not okay with my mom letting other people into the house while we're not home for a number of reasons, she got very defensive and said, well, they just walked in themselves, what am I supposed to do, kick them out? Yes. Anyway, we communicated the boundary with both Bil and mom. But man, is this such a crazy thing to not want a bunch of people in your home when you're not around? Stories number 47. AITA for telling my wife she's not allowed to treat my mom like a maid in our own house. So this has been building up for a while and I need to know if I'm in the wrong here. My wife and I have been married 3 years. My mom lives nearby and sometimes comes over to help out, especially when our newborn was first born, cooking meals, doing some light cleaning, etc. She offers to help, and I know she means well, but recently, my wife has started acting like it's expected. Like if my mom comes over and doesn't immediately start washing dishes or folding laundry, my wife gives her this attitude. She's even said stuff like, well, you're already here, might as well help out, half joking, but still. I pulled my wife aside and said that while I appreciate everything she does, my mom is not our maid and shouldn't feel obligated to clean every time she visits. My wife got upset and said I was taking sides and not recognizing how hard she works and how little support she feels from my side of the family. Now my brother says I should have kept my mouth shut because at least someone is helping, and my dad thinks my wife is being entitled. Even my sister is weirdly staying out of it, which is rare for her. Am I the asshole for stepping in? Should I just let it go, or was I right to set that boundary? Stories number 48. AITA for cutting my friend off for breaking up with her sick fiancé. I, 20F, recently cut off a friend Reagan, 26F, for breaking up with her fiancé when he found out he was diagnosed with cancer. To make it clear, it sucks that he's going through something like that, but I also know Reagan's allowed to have preferences or limits in a relationship. From my understanding, she was really happy with him, and after a slew of really bad relationships, he was great to her. So obviously I was surprised when she told me she wasn't speaking with him anymore and she'd broken off their engagement. I asked why and she told me he had cancer and she didn't want to deal with that. Firstly, how is anyone's first reaction to break up when finding out the man they're gonna marry is sick? He is in a vulnerable position, and he's helped you through so much over the past few years and you didn't think about any of that when you broke it off. Obviously I told her I think she should reconsider. I was diagnosed with a rare disease when I was a teenager and it would break my heart if my significant other left me solely because of something I have zero control over. She basically told me I was projecting because I'm basically in the same boat as him, and told me I was being selfish and only thinking about my emotions and not about hers. Her justification was that she needed to think about her future, and she didn't want to tie herself down to someone and have to deal with his sickness for the rest of her life. I get the sentiment, sort of, but she basically just implied that if you're sick, you're not entitled to being loved unconditionally. I haven't spoken to her since, and I sent her boyfriend a card and let him know that if he ever needs to talk about navigating the diagnosis, I'd be here. She reached out to apologize, but honestly I don't want to hear it. Not only did she leave a wonderful guy when he was in a vulnerable position, but she basically told me that I shouldn't expect people to love me or stick around because I'm also sick. Stories number 49. AITA for refusing to take care of my grandmother now that she's sick, even though she raised me. I, 23F, have been getting a ton of heat from family for refusing to take care of my grandmother, 78F, who is now in poor health and needs someone to look after her. Everyone keeps saying, she raised you, you owe her, but no one seems to remember how she raised me. When I was 5, my mom dropped me off at my grandma's place for the weekend. She never came back. Addiction got the best of her, and grandma got custody of me. From the outside, she looked like a saint. Church every Sunday. Baked goods for the neighbors. But behind closed doors, I was nothing more than a walking disappointment. If I cried, you're too sensitive. If I got an A-, should have been an A. If I said I missed my mom, she didn't miss you enough to come back. She called me fat from the time I was 10. Put me on diets she didn't follow herself. Told me no man would ever love me unless I fixed myself. She tracked my weight and even once gave me diet pills for Christmas. I was never hugged, never praised, never allowed to be vulnerable. I left home the moment I turned 18 and didn't look back. I built a quiet life. Therapy helped. I was finally starting to feel like maybe I wasn't the problem. Then 2 weeks ago, my aunt called. Grandma had a fall, needs someone to stay with her full time. I said I wasn't in a position to do that, emotionally or otherwise. My aunt said, she raised you. You owe her. But here's what no one gets, she didn't raise me. She broke me, then called it discipline. Now I'm the bad guy because I don't want to go back into that house, sleep in that same room where I used to cry into my pillow and pray to be anywhere else. I don't care if she's old. I don't care if she's sick. She never once cared about my well-being. Why should I care about hers? Stories number 50. To fool by using my thong as a hair tie. So this was actually the other day, but I was getting ready to have a shower as you do, but I wasn't gonna wash my hair cause I washed it the day prior. I didn't have a hair tie and couldn't find one, so I used a thong. A clean one from my room to tie up my hair, and by the time I got out the shower I forgot about it and just decided to keep my hair up for the day. So bad part is me and my friend were out shopping and it got really windy and she asked me for a hair tie. I didn't have a spare but said she could have mine, so I took it out of my hair and put it in her hand. As she says, what the fuck is that, and we just stare at each other. Well, I remember that I tied up my hair with a thong. I manically explained why I had tied my hair with a thong and she just laughed at me and told all our friends what I did. She's not letting me live it down. TLDR, forgot I used a thong to tie up my hair and gave it to my friend without realizing. Stories number 51. To fool by buying myself a fancy jacket and instantly starting a rumor at work. After a really rough few years financially, I finally caught a bit of a break from a $3,700 win on Rolling Riches sweepstakes casino. Not life-changing money, but enough to give me breathing room for the first time in forever. I cleared out some lingering credit card debt, replaced my dying phone, and let myself splurge just once. I bought a leather jacket I've wanted for years. Total impulse buy, but I figured, hey, I've been responsible, why not? I wore it to work the next day. Didn't say anything. Just walked in like normal, feeling a little better than usual. Big mistake. One of my coworkers goes, damn, new money, and everyone laughs, but I think nothing of it. Then another coworker jokes about me striking it rich. Later that day, someone asks if I got a new side hustle or secret inheritance. It starts spreading jokingly at first that I must have come into some serious cash. By the end of the week, someone asked if I was doing crypto or if I sold a kidney. I tried to play it down and said, nah, just treated myself after getting ahead a little. But now I've got people whispering about promotions I didn't get, speculating that I must be making way more than them, or worse, hiding something shady. I even had a manager pull me aside and say I seem to be enjoying a lifestyle shift, and that it's important to keep appearances consistent. I never thought one jacket would lead to this. To fool by underestimating how people react when you stop looking broke at work. TLDR, I bought a nice jacket after finally getting ahead financially. Now my coworkers think I'm either rich, shady, or hiding a secret job. One outfit caused office-wide conspiracy theories. Stories number 52. Breastfeeding older toddlers is disturbing to me. Something about sticking a titty into the mouth of a human fully capable of holding a conversation, who can dress themselves, is probably out of a diaper is so gross. I'm a mom who weaned when my son was 14 months. I actually wanted to stop earlier but he got very sick around 12 months and breastfeeding was literally the only way he got any fluids in him. I stopped cold turkey as soon as I felt he was up to it and never looked back. Whenever I see posts from these extended thing advocates they'll cite multiple instances that just do not apply in the Western world. Oh, they breastfeed for as long as possible in Africa. Yeah, it's because that's a reliable food source on a continent strife with droughts, famine and war. Obviously you'd keep a steady food source for your kids in that case. But no one in America or Europe is worried about going weeks without accessing water or food. And if you are, then this isn't about you. I'm talking these well-off parents who just refuse to stop. Who will whip out a titty mid-conversation and stick it in their 4-year-old's gob while you try to avoid eye contact with them. Who claim they'll stop when they're ready. Ah yes, because kids are so good at knowing what's best for them. That's why we let them choose their own bedtimes and what they want for dinner, right? There's this weird paradox of expecting older toddlers to be independent but also, forcing this baby habit for no good reason. They don't need titty milk. Babies obviously do, but your toddler should getting what they need from their food. Lastly, I literally just read like 10 minutes ago some lady commenting, gorillas BF their children for 3 to 4 years. I'm sorry, we're taking animals as our inspirations now. I guess we should all go back to the jungle to fling our shit at one another while grunting. Fuck off Greta and get your weird breastfeeding overgrown baby away from me. I would never say this in any of the parenting forums I'm in because people there get very angry and defensive if you try to argue and I'm not about it. But it really grosses me out reading about it and it gives me the absolute willies whenever I see a kid 2+ sucking on a nipple in public. Do you at the end of the day, but I just needed to get all of this off my chest. Stories number 53. AITA for kicking my fiance's sister out of my wedding. I, 32F, have never had a good relationship with my mother. She was very emotionally and verbally abusive to me when I was a kid. She's a very mean person that when I left for college at 18 I went no contact with her. It was best for me to distance myself from her and it worked for me. When I met my fiancé John, 5 years ago he knew all about my relationship with my mom and that I was no contact with her. He always respected my boundaries and never pushed for me to have a relationship with her, even when I was pregnant with our daughter, too. When I got engaged I made his sister Stacy my maid of honor because we have a very close relationship. Or thought I thought. Last Sunday I was going over the guest list with her and coming up with the seating chart for the reception. I never said anything about where my mother would be sitting because she wasn't invited and I think that caught her off guard because she asked where my mother would be sitting. I told her that my mother wasn't invited because we don't talk and I really don't want her at the wedding. She got quiet but didn't argue with me and we moved on from there. A few days passed and I got a call from a number I didn't know. I didn't answer and hung up but the number called again so I answered. My heart dropped when I heard my mother's voice. She was crying through the phone asking me why she did know that I was getting married and I was honest with her. I told her that she didn't need to know because of how she treated me all throughout my childhood. I had to go to therapy to undo the damage she did to me and I'm still not completely healed from it. I made a choice going no contact with her and I would like to keep it that way. She told me that it was unfair that I was holding what she did years ago against her and she hopes that we could talk when she comes down for the wedding. I told her that wasn't necessary because she wasn't invited. She started crying, asking me why I sent her an invitation to the wedding if I didn't actually want her there. I told her that I didn't so I don't know how she got one but it wasn't from me. She said nothing else and hung up the phone. When John got home with Stacy I asked him why he sent an invitation to my mother when I told him that I didn't want her there. He was confused and said that he didn't but I told him that someone did because she has one. That's when Stacy steps in and tells me that she was the one that sent out the invitation because she thought that if I saw her at my wedding I would realize how important it was to have my mother there for me. Now Stacy knows what I have been through with my mom and why I didn't want her at my wedding. She knows that my relationship with her is not good and her going behind my back to invite someone to my wedding that I don't get along with felt like a huge act of betrayal. I snapped at her and kicked her out of the wedding party because I refused to have someone there who didn't respect my boundaries and invited people I didn't like without my permission. She immediately started crying to John, telling him that I couldn't do this and to stop me from kicking her out of the wedding. He was quick to take my side and completely banned her from the wedding. She was fuming mad and left without saying a word. I got calls all Thursday and Friday from John's family telling me that I was the asshole for making John ban his sister from the wedding. His mom actually told me that what she did wasn't even that big of a deal and I needed to stop acting like a petty baby over something that happened to me years ago. I told her if she felt that way she didn't have come to the wedding either before hanging up on her. This whole thing has divided the family and it's making me feel guilty, but John has reassured me that I did nothing wrong and had nothing to feel guilty about. I want to believe him, but I can't help but feel like I might have overrated a bit. So am I the asshole here? Stories number 54. AITA for saying no to my girlfriend's friend who wanted to use our kitchen. My girlfriend and I live together in our apartment. Recently, one of her friends, who I'm not particularly close with, asked if she could come over just to use our kitchen. She lives in a dorm but says the kitchen there is too dirty to cook in. That already felt strange to me, because I barely know her, and it's not like it's an emergency. But what made it even weirder is that my girlfriend told me we should feel honored that her friend asked us instead of someone else. That rubbed me the wrong way. It felt kind of entitled, like we're supposed to say yes out of flattery. Also, this isn't a situation where the friend is in trouble or starving, she has a meal plan and can eat at the dining halls. It's not like she doesn't have options. She just suddenly wanted to cook something and decided her dorm kitchen was too gross. My guess is she remembered our place being clean because we hosted her, and others, a few times for dinner. But here's the thing, this wasn't a social request at all. It wasn't like, hey, want to cook together sometime, or, could we hang out and cook? It was literally just, can I use your kitchen to cook my own food? That's it. No invitation to connect or spend time together, just a one-way request to use our space. Another important detail, I'm the one who uses the kitchen 99% of the time. I do almost all the cooking and the dishes, so it feels like my personal space in the house. It's not just a shared utility room to me, it's where I do something I actually enjoy and take care of both of us. So letting someone else use it, especially someone I don't know well, isn't something I'm automatically cool with. For what it's worth, I'm not against helping out her friends. Over the summer, one of her other friends, who I really like and would love to be closer to, stayed with us for a week because she didn't have a place to stay temporarily. We both agreed to it, and of course she had full use of the kitchen and everything else. It felt mutual and respectful, but this current situation doesn't feel the same. It was just a request out of nowhere, with no real context or urgency, and it caught me off guard. Also, I've had a negative experience before with one of her other friends, who turned out not to be supportive of our relationship. So I know I might be a little guarded now, when I reacted like, WTF. That's weird, my girlfriend told me I was overreacting and being rude about her friend. Is this kind of request normal and I'm just being too sensitive? Edit. If it were just a one-time request, I honestly think I'd be okay with it. But she wanted to use our kitchen for a whole week, including sharing our refrigerator space, and we live in a pretty small one-bedroom, one-bath apartment. That's what made it feel like a bigger ask than it initially sounded. Edit. She literally asked us to share our kitchen for a whole week. She mentioned wanting to cook things like chicken breast and avocado toast, and it sounds like she'd want to make it every day. She also asked about using our fridge to store things. Edit. Thank you everyone for your responses. Sorry I couldn't reply to each one individually. I really appreciate all the perspectives, it helped me see the situation from different angles. Even though I still feel it's a bit much for someone to ask to use our kitchen for a whole week to cook toast and whatever she wants to cook without any important events, I'm considering giving her a chance and seeing how it goes. Also, my girlfriend mentioned that her friend doesn't have her own pots or cooking tools, so I'd be sharing mine too, which adds to the ask a bit. Like someone mentioned, I was mostly worried this might just be the beginning and that it could become a regular thing, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Thanks again for all your thoughts and input. Stories number 55. I, 29F, just got the ick from my husband, 31M. Do you think it calls for a divorce? Just for context, my husband and I get along in all aspects of our relationship, but recently he's been in the habit of picking at the dried, scabbed skin on his feet and flicking it all over the floor. Hence, giving me major ick as I constantly feel like I'm cleaning his flakes off the couch, bed and floor. Today, we were watching TV on the sofa and I was having some leftover pizza beside him. Imagine my horror as I see a huge piece of his dead skin he was picking at fly into my pizza as I go to take a bite. I immediately went off on him for being a disgusting piece of sh*t and haven't spoken to him for a few hours now. He on the other hand thought it was quite funny. I don't know if I can continue with this behavior. I have told him before that this does bother me, but he tells me that because he plays so much soccer on his off days, the dry skin just happens in flakes and he needs to remove it regularly. Does this call for a divorce? Stories number 56. AITA for telling my girlfriend I was born in a car. I've been with my girlfriend for over 5 years, over which time I've told her a few fairy stories that were more like practical joke time bombs than lies. I always expected them to get found out, you know what I mean. One of them was that I was born in the Australian bush far from a hospital, true, and when my mother went into labor, my father rushed to her to the hospital in his AITA, Australian pickup truck, true, but didn't make it on time, false, and had to deliver me himself in the back tray of the AITA, false. Being a bushie, he delivered plenty of calves, lambs and foals. It wasn't a big deal, I thought was just a bit funny, and I expected one day to be caught. Anyway, at my parents' place last weekend, my girlfriend brought it up to my father. Just in passing. My mother laughed, stopped her and got her to recite the whole story as I told it. Instead of everyone laughing at the hoax, they're all mad at me and don't understand what would motivate me to make up such a story. Now my girlfriend won't speak to me. Says she can't trust me and that it's all over. The thing is, that's just one of several pranks I've told her. There are more ticking away. Am I the asshole for pranking her, or does she just not have a sense of humor? Stories number 57. Women are truly fascinating. As a man, I don't completely understand the woman's body, but if you just do some basic research, it's so fascinating. My wife is currently cooking up my daughter and is 24 weeks pregnant, and the stuff her body goes through is absolutely insane. Like for instance, her body has twice the amount of blood she usually would need, and her kidneys can function properly and keep her blood pressure normal, whereas mine, if I have too much salt I'm going to end up the ER. She's just living her best life and growing our daughter at the same time. And if my daughter just so happens to come out right now, it'd take a whole team with tons of expensive machines just to keep her alive and do the same job my wife is doing. There's so many other awesome things the woman's body does that a man's body couldn't simply handle. To all you women, your body is amazing and can do way more than us men. Just remember that before you let someone depreciate you. Stories number 58. AITA for not complimenting my friend's weight loss. I, 41F, have been friends with Kelly, 40F, since we were in middle school. She has been overweight for most of her life. Her highest was around 350 pounds. For context, I've been mostly around the 150 to 180 pounds range since high school. Kelly has tried over the years all the diet trends you can think of and nothing really has worked. She will get going pretty well and then stop and gain the weight back. I would always compliment and encourage her while she was losing, but she mentioned this makes her feel self-conscious and gets discouraged to keep going, since she feels like she is being treated differently. A little over a year ago, she really went all in. No fads or quick fixes. Just changed her eating habits, committed to a walking plan and strength training, and other stuff. I'm not sure how much she has lost, but it has to be at least 100 pounds. So proud of her. While at a party thrown at my house, one of the guests who had not seen Kelly in a while complimented her for working hard and losing weight. Kelly responded, "At least someone is happy for me." My so-called friend has not said anything about it and does not seem to care. I was taken back and reminded her what she told me about praise. She said I was just being a jerk and felt jealous about her meeting her goals and should have still gave at least some encouragement. So now I am confused and wondering if I should have found a way to cheer her on. AITA. Stories number 59. I'm really starting to believe it is a manipulation thing from older men. So if you're not familiar with Hinge, it's a dating site. I'm 21F. I get likes from older men all the time, and recently I've come to catch that a lot of them would lie about their age and remove 10 to 15 years, and I snoop and later find out. So today I got a like from an older guy, age was displayed 43 and he looks way older, so I just accepted him. I was bored and I messaged, "Who do you expect to believe you're 43? Then he goes on to say he is actually 43 and turns 44 in October. I just can't believe it, so I search him up and truth is he's not 43 like initially figured. So then instead of calling him out I just messaged him and said, "Haha, that's so funny because I'm 41, after he read my message he asked, "But your profile says 21, I didn't respond, but 5 minutes later he unmatched. To me this just affirms the manipulation narrative that these men really are looking for young girls because it's easier to manipulate than older women, because let's say I was 41 I still looked the same on my profile, so it's not the young women look better narrative. Also it's not about fertility because on his profile it says, has kids, and, want no more kids. He already started off his message trying to manipulate me into thinking he was 43, and he's not the only older man on these apps doing this. What is wrong with these older men? People say, stop infantilizing and victimizing young 20-year-old women, but in reality these older men are the ones infantilizing us by thinking we're dumb ASF. It makes me feel weird every time. I can name so much more things I've experienced with accepting a like from older men on the apps. Stories number 60. AITA for saying no child support, no opinion. I, 17, think I might have to explain how I was born for context. My mom has two friends. I'll call them Amelia and Jessica. Jessica's husband cheated on her with Amelia, getting her pregnant, but Jessica forgave them. Then he cheated on her with my mom. Jessica still forgave him and forgave my mom, which makes me think she's probably the most forgiving person on the planet. Anyways, my mom insisted that Jessica's husband is my father, but he always denied it, up until several months ago when he realized how much we look alike. So he agreed to a DNA test. Turns out he is my father. So two affair children by two different women for him. He has been visiting about once a month, but things are still awkward between us. I was reading a romance novel when he told me I'm too young for those books and said I must stop reading them. I told him I won't, but he said I have to listen to him since he is my father, so I said, no child support, no opinion. He seemed pretty stung by it. Was it too much? Stories number 61. What women weigh determines how they're treated. Throughout the years I've gained weight, lost weight and gained weight again. The first time I drastically lost weight, I noticed how differently people treated me. Not just men but women too. It's as if me being slimmer made me more approachable or worthy of being treated better. I had an ED after that because I couldn't separate my worth from the size of my body. For me it felt like less weight equals more worth. However, due to health reasons and partly comfort eating, I've gained the weight again. This time I'm making sure I make healthy decisions for my body out of self-love rather than the approval of others. But I can indeed feel the difference of how I get treated when I gain weight. A female acquaintance told me I should wear more makeup to look like I did before. But oh well, we live and we learn. I hope at one point in our lives we can stop internalizing others' opinion about our bodies and truly make choices that heal ourselves.